Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Clichés with me, Craig, and my boy Jay over here. We are on to week 11 of the NFL season already. It feels like it has gone by fast. Um, I mean, I guess it makes sense that I'm the one to intro this week, coming off of what happened yesterday. I was telling Tap before we started this up, I got a bunch of notes for this week and everything. While I was taking the notes while watching that game, so I wrote down some notes for my thoughts on the Falcons' performance yesterday.
Yeah.
I got here positives. We have the nicest uniforms in the NFL with these throwbacks. Shouts out to the Blacks, gorgeous. That's the whole list of positives I have.
I mean, they're pretty sweet
uh,
guys,
boy, did the Falcons decide to not show up and play that week.
yeah. Last couple weeks, right?
Uh,
It's
I mean, missing Cordell Patterson hurts a lot, right? Like, that dude, it's such a big part of the Falcons' offense. Whether it's running the ball or passing the ball, they run a lot of things through Cordell Patterson, and missing him hurts, but you can't just lay another egg. And everybody knows I'm bullish on the Patriots. I love the Patriots team this year, but that's an egg. You can't just do that.
I mean, the thing is, they were actually like that game. I should say that score is a little deceiving. The Falcons were actually quite in this game for a bit, just because, the the offense just couldn't get it going, but their defense kept them in there. I mean, that was a 13-0 game. Still, decent chunk of time in the third quarter. They're driving the ball, and they actually had, I think, a fourth down conversion on a drive there in the third quarter, and they were looking like they were going. And then, of course, it just sputters out. I think they have that's the 40-something yard field goal that then gets brought back.
45.
45 that gets brought back to a 50, and that just like squirrely ball left. And that's kind of how it felt. There was definitely some missed opportunities there for the Falcons to actually make that a game. Make that a game right there in the third quarter and have plenty of opportunity. Their defense really did play well for them for a time. They could only do so much in that game. It ended up being.
And honestly, I have no issue with the way the defense played. I thought they did a good job of containing everything, right? Like the Patriots, they played very bend, don't break, right? The Patriots kicked a lot of field goals in that game. One of their touchdowns was thrown by Matt Ryan. You take that one away, and the defense only gave up the one touchdown, right? Like they played a lot of bend, don't break, and I like the way that the defense played as a whole. I do think Mac Jones played well, but not outstanding. I think the Patriots' run game was running the ball decently, but they didn't blow you away with their running game, right? Like you were able to keep their running game somewhat in check. Um, Ultimately, the offense cost us another game, and I've been talking about Matt Ryan all year and how much I loved Matt Ryan, but he's not the same guy, right? He's a game manager now. He can't throw the ball like he once did, and when you're behind, and don't even get me Josh Rosen, man. Never again. The Josh Rosen thing's done. Dude's not even a backup in the NFL. Let's just cut ties with Josh Rosen. Let him go to the XFL when it starts back up, and who knows? Maybe he can figure something out there. But I don't know. We're the first team in 3 years to have three different quarterbacks throw an interception in a game, so that's good.
That's a tough stretch, and I guess you could that one tip, the tip pick there, kind of really sealed it shut. That one was harsh. You hate to see that, but a great effort, obviously, by that New England DB.
I think it was J.C. Jackson, right? Yeah.
Nice.
He's unreal.
Kept the feet in, barely stepped out. Pretty much was streaking down the sideline. Would have had that otherwise. So
that dude is an undrafted free agent. How did that happen? J.C. Jackson is ridiculous. One guy I want to bring up, because he stuck out to me yesterday. He stuck out to me at points all year, despite not having the statistical season that a lot of people would expect. But you look at Miami's defense and how far they've fallen, and how the fuck do you get rid of Kyle Van Noy? He is so good. And I know statistically he's not having his greatest season of all time, but he's only playing 60-something% of snaps for the New England defense this year. They're playing him very sparingly at times. He is such a leader on that field. You just see the way he controls that defense. He's that old school middle linebacker, right? Who he's the guy who's in the center and kind of forces the quarterback to go elsewhere. Right, those crossing routes through the middle just don't exist against New England because of Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah.
He got one on Matt Ryan trying to force one into that area. Teams just don't throw down the middle against the Patriots, and a lot of that is Kyle Van Noy's there shutting that shit down. And man, you look at that Dolphins defense this year and how much worse they look, and you cut Kyle Van Noy.
I mean, it had a little bit of a resurgence recently. I mean, granted, we're talking about a 3-7 Dolphins team, so it's not been good for the most part, right? But at least a little bit of bounce back. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess they had a linebacker, another 3-name linebacker. I can't think of his name for the Dolphins, young kid. And they felt like he had a fair kind of similar tool set.
Andrew Van Ginkel.
Thank you. So another Van in there. And, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe that's some overthinking by the GM, thinking, okay, yeah, we can get this young guy in for cheap, same skill set. He'll be able to fill that gap if we move on from Van Noy. But, yeah, what a mistake there. And yeah, middle linebackers – yeah, maybe not the sexiest position on the field. Maybe not your edge rusher or your stud defensive back. Those might get a little bit more stardom. But, Niners fan, I've known, you got Fred fucking Warner in the middle. It's a different ball game. And you got a guy like Kyle Van Noy. I think he is he's a guy who could lock down as well. He could cover the field. He's able to read the play pretty well, and I imagine being back there for as long as he has been, you're kind of commanding the troops back there as the middle linebacker. So I gotta imagine probably is a big fan in that New England locker room for sure. Like, gone for a season, but was there previously, and I'm sure they really appreciate having him back. For sure.
Oh, no doubt. And guys like Devin McCourty and stuff like that, Devin McCourty had a very down year last year. And then he sees Kyle Van Noy step back into that locker room. The defense all of a sudden looks alive again. That looks like a Belichick defense again. They don't give you shit. And I think a lot of that is having that middle linebacker, having Kyle Van Noy, who's been there under Belichick and knows exactly what Bill wants, who's able to just command everything around him. Let's shut this down. And that Patriots defense is scary. And that offense it's good enough, right? It's not spectacular, but it's good enough. And I've said it for the past few weeks now. I'm very bullish on the Patriots. I think they're 100% a playoff team this year. They could potentially catch the Bills if the Bills aren't careful.
Absolutely.
They're a scary team, and I think the rumors of Bill Belichick's demise have been greatly exaggerated. I think that Patriots team is for real.
And I think that kind of leans into one of the topics I wanted to bring up about last week. I've been on the opposite side. I have been a little bit, not a believer in the Patriots. This kind of rise. I think I said in last week's episode or the episode before, I feel like this Patriots team is like a 9-8 team. Just misses the playoffs. A good team. Definitely not a bad team. They've kind of shown that. They definitely have shown some pieces on defense that have been very impressive. And then, of course, Mac Jones is going to be the one looked at. And he's done pretty well. I mean, actually, I want to say, definitely one of the top in the league as far as accuracy is concerned. I think, completing 70% of his balls. Not a fantastic touchdown to interception ratio, but pretty decent. drives them down, gets them first downs. So, credit is where credit's due. I suppose part of that for me is I just didn't want to see the Patriots good again so soon. Like, do we really have to go through this
Doesn't feel
again?
fair. It
It's
doesn't feel
we
fair that
we
they
j- we had a year where it's like, all right, yeah, it's like not like truly like celebrating. I didn't really necessarily hate the Patriots, but you see them every year in the playoffs doing well, and that last season with Brady when honestly I think they took that loss against the Titans, and it felt like they were kind of sputtering out. It's like, all right, yeah, it's as most teams, it's might take a few years for them to get back into playoff form, but it was like one miss season, and then they just spent everything they could, and they put together a pretty damn nice roster. And again, kind of pointing that defense. That defense is pretty damn good.
nasty.
It
It's a
really
nasty
is.
defense.
So,
And like you said, like 14-8 is not a horrible touchdown interception record. And for a rookie, you take that.
yeah, you take this.
I feel like they might have found their next guy in Mac Jones, and I think they found their next guy in Mac Jones.
Absolutely, at this point, of course.
Mac Jones looks like the real deal, and oh man, we all thought we would get a reprieve from the Patriots, and now all of a sudden they got a good young quarterback. The defense is, by the way, that's not an old defense by any stretch. The whole reason why it was shocking that they freaking cut Kyle Van Noy is he's not really that old, right?
Yeah.
He's just turned 30. Like
Yeah.
he's not ancient, right?
Yeah.
JC Jackson's 26, and this year has been the best corner in the NFL. Could potentially be Defensive Player of the Year the way he's going. I don't know. I don't know why the Patriots are like this. It's not fair, but I mean, they don't look like they're going anywhere.
Certainly doesn't.
They look, if anything, they look like they're going back up, right? And,
Yeah.
it sucks, but
I mean, it's going to be one of those things. I mean, like you brought up, they are they're going to be in a bit of a fight. Surprisingly enough, the Bills, for as dominant as they've been, they've dropped some games, obviously, that they probably should have handled. And now, record-wise, they're sitting there at 6-3. They got a tough game coming up, and we'll come to this shortly as the opener game of next week. But they got a tough Colts team coming into town, and a team that's kind of been on the rise for sure in the Colts. This is going to be a very interesting game. I mean, they dropped this one. They're right there, and they're tied up in record with a couple games to go in the latter part of the season, head-to-head. Those are going to be some fun games down the line to really decide this division.
in Buffalo and at Foxborough, where it's probably going to be cold, it's probably going to be snowing, it's probably going to be old school winter football in New York, where these games matter. It's gonna be fun. I think we can use these games, by the way, to transition back to last week, because I feel like both these teams played this week like they did last week, in where the Patriots looked really good against the Browns. Like, they beat them pillar to post. And I think we both kind of took New England on the premise that we felt like without Nick Chubb, the Browns wouldn't have enough. But I don't think either one of us expected 45-7.
No. I mean, I feel like this game is such a interesting, like, I don't want to say an outlier, because I think the Pats, after that initial drive where, the Browns coming down, they look pretty decent that opening drive. Like, they run the ball nicely, put up the tutty. It's like, oh wow, all right. And I believe we had both picked New England for that game.
Yeah, we did.
It's like, oh wow, maybe maybe the Browns kind of making a little resurgence here. And New England, they shut down that offense to where it was amazing that first drive even occurred in that same game. You would have thought that was week to week, like something happened there, but not a fluke. Definitely not a fluke. I think this is an interesting New England team. You know, they were at one point 2-4, and they were looking like they're gonna struggle. They might actually struggle even, fighting with whoever the third place team is going to be in that division, which is pretty much Miami. But I mean, they're no joke right now. I think that Mac Jones has only kind of gotten more solid as the season has gone on.
And, I think we need to give some shout-outs to Ramondre Stevenson, who has really showed out recently for the Patriots and really given them a solid running back option. He was a guy who, out of Oklahoma, was really good, had that failed drug test due to marijuana, and I think that turned some teams off of him. But the Patriots might have gotten a 4th-round steal in Ramondre Johnson. He's looked unreal the last few weeks for them, and it's made Mac Jones' job easy, right? Mac Jones doesn't need to sling the ball like he was trying to in the first few weeks of the season. He can hit his guys in the intermediate, which is what he was always good at Alabama, right? He was never a guy who threw the ball 50 yards. He was going to hit you 5-10 yards a time and just cut you up.
I will say, you got to take a look, though, at what their schedule's been like so far. They've beat up on some teams that are, beat up themselves, not good in general. Obviously that win against Atlanta is pretty impressive, but there were times where their offense wasn't getting anything done really for them. There was a reason that game was 13-0, still there into the third. You got to say probably their best win on the board. The Chargers win probably.
Chargers win, but we'll talk about the Chargers in a bit.
And the Chargers have been kind of rough.
I don't know what the Chargers are.
They have 4 games in 5 weeks there. They got a bye week right in between. They got a tough sandwich here of a game, of games here. Mm-hmm. This is, I mean, we've talked about this stretch before.
It's the make or break stretch.
Yeah, this is the one where I see them. You were talking last week about this. I can see this still. As good as they have looked, I could still see this as an 0-4 stretch for them. I'm starting to believe that they have the ability, especially against this Buffalo team. This Buffalo team needs to.
Yeah, figure some stuff.
They got to shore it up because they can't play sloppy against this team. I don't think and get away with it. They will have to. Yeah, they all have to shore it up.
Yeah, and I'm not sold on the Colts either. I'm really not. So. I see at least 2 wins in there, potentially a 3-1, but I do see at least 2 wins in there for the Patriots. I still like them at home against the Titans, but that game's going to be close, and that Titans defense is no joke. But I still see a 2-2 stretch in there easily, and then you go 2-2 through that, and they're 9-6, right? And now all of a sudden, instead of being a fringe playoff team, you're talking about, are they challenging the Bills? Are they for real? So it'll be interesting to see. You're right. It is a murderer's row of games, but you get through that 2-2, and then you got the Jaguars and Dolphins to end the year, and you're coming out of that looking pretty, right? Like that's the situation they've afforded themselves by winning the games they should win. And let's be honest, the tough games they've played have not been major losses. They lost by 2 to the Bucs. They lost in overtime to the Cowboys. They've played some tough teams and been right there with them. I do really feel like this Patriots team is for real. And I think next week against the Titans at home, we're going to really see what they're about.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree, though. They have played, even when they have taken those losses against tough teams, they've played them close, right? But that's almost the difference right there between your good middle ground teams, right, and those teams that are making those playoff pushes. They're getting to those championship games potentially. So that's going to be really defining. Is they're going to have likely 4 very close, tough games in their next spread here coming up. If they could start winning those games as opposed to losing them, that's obviously going to be the difference.
100%.
I think that, yeah, with the tools that they have as far as a defense is concerned, they're going to give trouble to, any of those teams that start making, any silly little mistakes. I think the fourth down stops that New England was finally able to get there. They gave up a couple there to Atlanta to where they were driving, but then, yeah, it just kind of all sputtered out. Good bend don't break, kind of defense, and just stuck with it.
Yep.
If they keep up to that, and yeah, they are opportunistic when they have the opportunity. They seem to have DBs and backs that could, sticky fingers back there and able to get some turnovers. That's always gonna be big for them. Just bend don't break and let hopefully an offense make a mistake for you.
And where I think we're seeing what the Patriots really are these last few weeks, we're also seeing what the Falcons are these last few weeks. Boy, after getting embarrassed by the Cowboys, I thought they might show up in that game against New England. That Cowboys game was a joke. The Cowboys coming off of, in their own right, being embarrassed by the Broncos, right, looking horrific, and the Falcons come out and just give them whatever the heck they want. Tony Pollard wants to run the ball. Ole, you wanna throw the ball to whoever you want. He's open, and the Cowboys just they killed it in the first quarter, right? That game was dead by the end of the first quarter. Or okay, by midway through the second quarter, because the Cowboys hadn't quite scored on that first quarter drive until the start of the second quarter, make it 14-3, and then Matt Ryan threw a pick, and then it was 21-3 before we knew it, and the game was dead there. The Falcons never looked like they were coming back, and man, I've been saying it all year. I don't think the Falcons' record is who this team really is. At 4-6 now, yeah, it's getting closer. They're not very good. Matt Ryan, I love him. I hope he retires at the end of this year, and I'll wish him all the best. Because he really did. I feel like I've been really harsh on Matt Ryan, and I feel like every time I do it, I need to clarify with I am a huge fan of Matt Ryan. I love Matty Ice, but he's not that guy anymore. He's not an MVP guy anymore. He's not even an average quarterback anymore. He's got no arm, right? The shoulder injuries have finally taken a toll on him, and there's nothing around him that can bail him out. Kyle Pitts is very good, and God, I hope one day we get a quarterback in there who can really facilitate that, because Kyle Pitts is very good. But man, there's just nothing there. It's a very barren team right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, yeah, they are obviously you put up 3 points in 2 games, and give up 60 something.
68.
Yeah, that's a tough stretch. And they're like, this is just the time. I mean, Carolina, we'll see, like, with the whole, Cam coming back experiment and how they're going to go. New Orleans, starting to fall off with having to put Simeon back there. So it was like, man, that second place in the division was, for the taking, really. Yeah. And it's just like, these last 2 games, it's hard to, even when you take a look at the wild card standing, Atlanta really right there, right in the thick of it. I mean, who isn't really in the NFC? But, man, it's hard to think that you're going to get much else. You brought up, Patterson and how his dynamic to that offense. I mean, if you don't have that, they don't seem to be able to go quite as well. They're trying to fill it in spots, I suppose, but just never. Pretty much after that failed field goal drive in the third there, it looked really bad from there on, and then the picks started happening, and it just that was a mess.
Got a game you want to go to from last week? Because I know I got one or two.
Well, you know exactly where we're gonna go here. can we talk about my San Francisco 49ers?
Oh, they
Monday night at home, finally at home, like playing decently. That defense flying around, Jimmy looking decent, but then the truth, Elijah Mitchell, run the rock. Jeff Wilson, welcome back. It's great to have him back in the backfield. It's a nice little two-back there. And then, of course, my boy Debo, just showing out. Quite a nice win for the Niners to.
He's unbelievable.
Keep it, yeah. I mean, Debo is, there's a reason he's right there. He's in the top 5. He's been in the top 5 the entire year. For your top receivers in the league. It's and like I've been saying, this team, it works its best, it operates its best when they can start running the rock. And Shanahan has McVay's number in this one. The Rams have really always looked bad against the Niners. Even in our bad seasons, we've taken games against this Rams team, and we just ran it down their throats. Shanahan had a clear plan. I don't know why this hasn't been the plan for more games. This team operates behind the run first and foremost, and when he gets them going downhill like that, it shows. That was top notch. Time of possession was insane for the Niners. I think it was. I want to say it was almost 2-1. And then Stafford. Obviously that early duck. Everybody thought Odell was gonna be something that they were going to click immediately. It's going to take a little bit of time for any receiver to get on the same page with a quarterback they've never played with before. So, that misread, that was a nice little momentum piece for the Niners there, and we're able to just continue it from there. Just drove it down their throats, basically.
I still like the Rams. Make no mistake. I'm not falling off the Rams because of these last 2 weeks. They've looked bad. There are circumstances behind it, obviously, right? Losing Robert Woods for the year hurts big time, and not having the time to get Odell in to fill that spot. We talked about it last week, right? One of the reasons you could bring in Odell is in case Kupp or Woods gets hurt, he can fill in that number 2 spot, and he will. And I think he'll be fine there, but they're going to need some time to mesh, obviously. Extenuating circumstances with the matchup, right? You would love to have Odell a couple more weeks before you play the Niners, who you have traditionally struggled against. It's a good win for the Niners. It's a bad loss for the Rams. I'm still looking at it in that vacuum. I'm still not sold on the Niners, and I'm still not losing hope on the Rams. The Niners might be a playoff team because the NFC playoff picture looks like a mess right now, right. But even if they make it, they're not going far. This is a team whose record defines where they are. And again, we'll talk about this when we talk about this week's game.
All right.
But I'm still not sold on the Niners. Like, I get it, but they are coming off of giving up 31 points to Colt McCoy, who, boy, did he look like Colt McCoy this week.
Yeah.
34-10. Panthers, Cardinals. Colt McCoy sucks.
Here's one thing. With a banged up defensive backfield like the Niners have had all season, and having to bring in a guy like Norman, and he's sometimes looking lost out there. Sometimes Norman's actually been looking pretty decent out there, but ultimately, there's been a couple plays where he's just outside, almost had the pick, obviously, and like talking all the way back in the Colts game. Came back last game that we've been really missing back there? Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward showed out that last game, and he's actually showing, right there along with your boy Fred Warner in the middle. I think another guy that's really kind of he's kind of the captain of that defensive backfield, and it really showed. I mean, Jimmy was flying out there. Obviously, he was able to make that beautiful play on the flat for the pick six early, which helped really define how this game was gonna go for the Niners. And just having his presence there, like, he is actually he's going to make a lot of those areas where they were kind of missing and people weren't in the right place. I think Jimmy Ward will really be able to help that team as far as that defensive backfield, keep more of their assignments and not let guys free. If there's one thing we've definitely and even in that game, I think there was one time, I think it was on the far sideline. I can't remember who caught it, probably Cup, far left sideline. They just kind of let him get free, but that's been happening a lot to the Niners, letting guys get free down the sideline. And hopefully a lot less PIs with a guy like Jimmy Ward back there as opposed to the rookies that we were throwing back there as well. So I think this team will look a little bit better on the defensive side. But you can't let that happen with Colt McCoy. I don't know if Jimmy Ward lets Colt McCoy dominate him like that, but there was a lot of good Niners players out on that defense that did allow Colt McCoy to do that. So it was definitely troubling. This Niners defense has looked a little shaky in those games, in some of these games, but Jacksonville, this has got to be the one because they have underperformed, to plenty of teams, but they have to kind of put their foot down against this Jaguars team coming up.
Hold on, we'll get to the Jaguars game when we get to this week again. I think I'm gonna have some fun with that one, but I mentioned it a little bit in passing. We can just do a quick summary of it now. Panthers beat the absolute piss out of the Cardinals. Colt McCoy turns back into a pumpkin, right? Yeah. He was. It turns out he was Colt McCoy all along.
This is who we thought he was. I mean, and this was, two goal line packages for Cam. This was he didn't play that much, but this was kind of the Cam Newton show. This is like, yep, I'm back, and this is going to be a fun Panthers team if they can start getting going because that defense they've shown early on this defense could be absolutely savage, and if they got a healthy McCaffrey and a Cam that's feeling himself, dangerous, absolutely dangerous Panthers team here in the second half of the season, I think.
And I believe Newton's starting this week, so that'll be interesting to see. Christian McCaffrey's back, obviously. That's the difference right there. I'm sorry to people who think Cam Newton was the difference, and Christian McCaffrey's back. Christian McCaffrey's the difference there, right? This team was winning with Sam Darnold at quarterback when Christian McCaffrey was there, and made us think that Sam Darnold was a legit quarterback. Remember, we were all calling out the Jets. The Jets stink. Look at how good Sam Darnold is.
Yeah.
That was all Christian McCaffrey.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing, though, because I think early on, Sam was playing to a little bit better of a level, not making the silly mistakes, and they had McCaffrey going. McCaffrey goes down, Darnold obviously looks like garbage. But then, PJ Tucker coming in, it's not like they were looking good with Walker, Tucker, whatever. PJ Tucker, is that like a baseball player that I'm forgetting?
Small forward. Rockets.
Damn. But you get McCaffrey back, but you can't put Walker in there and that team starts winning. I think Cam is a quarterback that can make this team go again.
Oh, yeah, no.
With McCaffrey in there. But I think it's kind of it's interesting as far as how the timelines have taken place and how they've had to rotate quarterbacks. This is the time for Cam to start looking good again. It'll be interesting to how much of the how much we get of the goal line package stuff still with Cam. I mean, that's where it's kind of the most explosive. I think that's where people are really looking forward to it. But it'll be interesting, between the 20s, how this team moves the ball down the field. You got to think that McCaffrey will help a lot, but we'll see how Cam's able to settle in there as just kind of a drop back quarterback and be able to sling it around. This should be a good game. I think an exciting team going forward for sure.
I will throw out Atlanta for some reason pulled out the wishbone yesterday without a running quarterback. Maybe run some wishbone with Cam. I think I think you could have some fun triple option stuff out of the wishbone with Cam, right? Let's face it, the game has evolved into more of a college style offense anyways, right? The RPO wasn't a thing 10 years ago in the NFL. All you would only see it in college football. It's becoming more of a thing. Perhaps you run some triple option, some wishbone. You throw in some things that can help Cam get settled a little bit, right? I don't think that would be the worst idea in the world for the Panthers to experiment a little bit, to get at least until you get Cam settled back in. Let's not forget, he came off of sitting on his couch for the first 10 weeks of the year, right? Like, this isn't a guy. Now, I say that in a hyperbolic stance, right? He was obviously keeping in shape and training and stuff like that, but he wasn't playing. So how do you get him comfortable again? Keep things simple, right? And Cam is a running quarterback. He can scramble with the best of them. Turn to that. Use that strength that you have. I think that's one way until you get Cam a little bit more settled in, that you can help him a little bit, right? It's probably a lot easier for Cam to get running right now than it is to be throwing the ball 30 yards down the field. We talked about your upset pick of the week last week. You were big bullish on the Niners. Can we talk about mine? Can we talk about that Washington football team?
Oh yeah.
I told you there was something in my gut. The Bucs have not looked good recently. Taylor Heinicke, for some reason, enjoys playing the Bucs. I was going off of a 1-game sample. We now have a 2-game sample of Taylor Heinicke enjoying playing against the Bucs. Yeah, you see him play against the Bucs and you go, maybe he is a quarterback. Then you see him play against everybody else and you find out he's a pumpkin. But he likes playing the Bucs. And Washington showed up, and boy, oh boy, can we just throw all of the question marks around this Tampa Bay team now?
Yeah, I think for them, you take a look, they've been incredibly banged up in that defensive backfield. Heinicke didn't have an incredible game, but 26-32, pretty damn accurate game. Getting a tutty in there for 256
with a touchdown, like.
Yeah, so, good enough on that end. Obviously, Washington defense showing up a little bit. Unfortunately, in that win, losing their edge rusher. Why am I spacing on his name?
Chase Young.
Chase Young, thank you.
That's a bad one.
That one hurts. Like, it's a nice win for Washington here. This gets them to 3-6. You almost kind of wish you didn't. I don't know if you necessarily take a loss but if you could, I don't know, maybe you take a loss instead of using Chase Young if you could go back to it and somehow do that. But it's he's had a rough season himself, so it'll be interesting to see, next man up, who steps up on this defense. And yeah, to be honest, this wasn't a game that I didn't expect the ability for Heinicke. Basically, this came down to, this was a 4-point game late, right? And there is still a lot of time in the fourth quarter. And Heinicke gets that ball and just all of a sudden
arms him up.
There's a minute left and they're at the goal line. And it's like, where the hell did this game go? And it's just that, like, he just kind of picked them apart. Just got exactly what he needed. Kept the time ticking down. It's like, hey, if you give the early touchdown there, maybe momentum-wise, like, Brady gets one back real quick.
You never
their
want to
defense
give Brady
gets to stop.
too much time, right?
So, like, if Washington goes and they score and there's still 7 minutes, and then Brady scores, like, in 2 minutes, 5 minutes left, quick stop, Brady gets the ball back. That's a game that Brady has shown that could just take over and win. But instead, you get this 9-minute drive from Washington, and they just melt that game away. And to where, yep, too bad. You can't come back now because, We gave you no time, and we scored a touchdown at the end. So it's just like, that's quite masterful. Kudos on the offensive play calling of Washington, Heineke being able to execute that. And, you know, there's you got to like McLaurin, Terry McLaurin for Washington, obviously kind of their standout wideout. McKissick's he's been an interesting guy back there, and they got guys like Ricky Seals-Jones, who's been able to step in for their injured starter Logan Thomas for tight end. So you got little pieces here and there. They played up very well to this Tampa Bay team, but Tampa Bay also being injured as they are, I would expect them to play a little bit better than this. But and with this upcoming week, we'll see how they look after this week. This will be an interesting one in the Monday night game coming up. But nice win for Washington there. That was definitely a good call from Craig on that one. I don't think a lot of people picked that one. Just like a lot of people didn't pick the Niners to do what they did against the Rams. So some good upset picks for as bad of a week as we had picking last week. Not too shabby. Not too shabby for a couple of them there.
And to be fair, now we'll gloss over these two games really quickly because I don't think there's much to say about them. But it's worth noting on our betting week. Our week kind of got ruined by two backdoor covers by Jacksonville and New Orleans. Mm-hmm. Both of whom those games looked like New Orleans was up like 23-9, or New Orleans was down like 23-9, and the Colts were up big, and it looked like, hey, we're good. That's a couple more check marks. And nope, they backdoor cover on both of them.
Yeah.
And like literally by the smallest of margins. Tennessee -3, win by 2. The Jaguars were what? Indy was +10, win by 6, right? Like the backdoor covers killed us on those two games. Yeah. But the games went exactly as we thought they would, right? Like the Titans defense made Semion's day easier than I thought they would, to be honest with you. That was probably the biggest thing of that game. Trevor Siemian actually had a pretty decent day. But the Titans offense did enough. I'm still not sold on that Titans offense. We'll see what they are going forward. And then the Colts, Jonathan Taylor's really good at football.
Oh. Yeah. I think that was
that's the story of both those games, right?
Yeah. I think that's what we said going into that game, and that's what we said going out of that game. And as long as he stays healthy, that team will have, I think they will have chances in a lot of their games going down the stretch here.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on the Colts, and we'll talk more about that as we get into this week, because I got some stats to back up my not sold on the Colts. But
all right, got to bring this up. This was an amazing. Oh man, what do I compare this to? This was like not a train wreck. Train wreck's a little savage.
If you're talking about the game that I think you're talking about, it was a little bit of a train wreck in that overtime.
It was like a dam slowly eroding, collapsing. And this is the Detroit Lions against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I said it.
What the hell was that game? Now
I said it. Detroit +8. That's me right here.
Who? Why? No. But it goes to show, like, Ben still kind of makes his team go. Obviously, you can't just throw Mason Rudolph or whoever the hell you want to throw in there for the Steelers.
Would Ben being in that game have prevented 2 fumbles by receivers in overtime?
I think they put it together in other ways. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. The fumbles, though, I mean, I think the second one, obviously, like right there, I understand you go for the extra yards and Firemouth or whatever his name is. You're already in field goal range.
Get down.
It's amazing. Like how do you let that happen? It's the way great effort on defensive side.
Oh yes, ball
Watch
hawking,
it all.
right? That's what the Detroit Lions. We've talked about it all year. They play with unbridled passion. That team wants to win every game they're out there for, no matter how much they stink.
What? Okay, but this is the thing that drove me the maddest is because Detroit actually probably should have won that game by the end of it. Santos, with that stash, you have to. It has to look better than that.
He got cut, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. He got cut after that game. Santoso got cut after that game.
You rocketed it that nice, on the lip, and you put that ball out there. If it was raining and blustering winds, I could expect, but that was
Heinz
kind of
notoriously tough to kick at.
Yeah, it was, and it was a little, it was a little dreary out there, I believe, but it's got to look a little better than that. It's got to have a chance at 40.
Watching the replay, I think he had laces in. Which would also be another thing that would hurt there.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a great hold. I think the laces were in, and that would have caused a problem. But even still, like, I've seen laces in kicks that look better than that. Like, you gotta hit it. You gotta hit it. You had your chance to get the guy we all love Dan Campbell. Everybody else, I haven't heard a single person talk about hating Dan Campbell. We all want to see him get that win. You had the chance and you kick a duck. That was bad.
I like Dan Campbell. This is something that I've compared to earlier, and I hate to do it, but it's like this feels like a Mike Singletary situation all over again.
I disagree.
It feels like it. It's just like guys bring a lot of passion. He's fired up. He's like, he's going to rally the troops. And they, like, Goff didn't have 100 yards until overtime.
I don't think the Niners played as hard for Singletary as the Lions do for Campbell. On top of that, I still think that Niners team had way more talent than this Lions team. This Lions team is bad. They got one player on that team. His name's DeAndre Swift. TJ Hawkinson's really good, but there's only so much you can do when Jared Goff's throwing you the ball. Everything else out there, you can replace it with something better very easily. It's spare parts, right? That offense is spare parts. Their best receiver was Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I go back to it again. I don't think anything of Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's not much there. And poor TJ Hawkinson. There was a point in that last game where they triple covered TJ Hawkinson. They literally triple cover the guy because they know there's nobody else on the field who can beat him.
I don't even understand how because I'll go, it's back and forth. I'll go back to the Steelers side. How the hell does Mason Rudolph throw the ball 50 times? Najee Harris runs the ball 26 times. 76 offensive plays right there, and they still only put up 16 points. It's quite amazing.
I will say, on the Mason Rudolph thing you brought up earlier, do you think Ben Roethlisberger would have done any better than 30 for 50 for 244, a touchdown and a pick?
Yes.
That would have been one of Ben's best games this year.
No, but he's not thrown it 50 times. That offense is going to move in a different way with Ben out there. Absolutely.
That Steelers offense has been shit with Ben this year.
Against the Detroit Lions, though, 16 points.
Put up 15 against the Browns
probably better than that.
A couple of weeks ago.
Probably better than that. I mean,
and put up 15 against the Browns B team a couple of weeks ago.
The Browns B team is better than the Detroit Lions.
That Lions defense is better than you're giving them credit for. Like, let's be honest.
I mean,
19 to the Ravens, 19 to the Vikings. They've played some good.
My Niners blew the fucking doors off them week 1, so I don't know about that. This is they could look all right at times, but there's a reason this team is 0-8-1 now. I
Like
mean,
that, there's some good players on that defense.
with a
Like,
good back, Goff shouldn't be like completely losing them games. You would think with a
yeah, he
good
should.
defense they
Yeah,
would
he
be able
should.
to. Ah,
Jared
I,
Goff
I, I
is Jared Goff is legitimately top 5 worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Honest to God, if you look at every team starting quarterback, Jared Goff's in the bottom 5.
oh yeah, no. As far as starting quarterbacks, of course.
Yeah. Not like if you're counting injuries and stuff like that. I'm not throwing Josh Rosen into this or anything
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
As far as if you look at every team and put out the 30 starting quarterbacks, Jared Goff's in the bottom 5. You combine that with having no wide receivers.
Okay, so you asked me about Ben. I think Ben clearly wins you that game over Mason Rudolph for damn sure. Jared Goff or Mason Rudolph? It's a funny question, isn't it?
Oh boy, that's a flip of a coin, isn't it? Mason Rudolph because he's played less, so there's maybe potential that he's better.
Yeah, I don't
But
agree.
I mean, that's a real flip of a coin for me. I don't know. That's why they tied. By the way, Ben Roethlisberger or Jared Goff? Ben Roethlisberger barely. Ben Roethlisberger is not a good quarterback anymore. I will stand by it. Jared Goff is bottom 5 in the NFL. Ben Roethlisberger is bottom 10.
I'd put him right there in like the halfway point, probably a little lower. So yeah, I mean, close to it. Basically
Yeah,
at that point,
I mean close, right? Like
you're starting to get to 15 lower than that
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, so like it's starting to get there. The tread's worn thin on the tires, obviously with Ben. This is a Steelers team that isn't looking. I don't think they're looking to start again with a quarterback though. So it'll be interesting. Ben, you got to imagine going away this season, after this season, no matter what they do. I feel,
You'd hope.
and you got to say like there's some veterans that they could be looking for. It'll be interesting going forward. See what this Steeler team does with a new quarterback. Because they're going to put someone at the helm. I don't know if they draft. I don't see that.
I don't think there's a quarterback in this class that they're gonna think
Yeah.
is worth drafting.
So
I'm
pick up
with
a
you.
veteran. Yeah.
I think they'll pick up somebody on the free agent market. I don't know who's a free agent this year for them to go out and look at.
Yeah.
As far as that's concerned, maybe you knock on the Niners' door, right? We've talked before about them maybe trading Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see how this season goes. If Garoppolo gets into the playoffs, I don't think they trade him. But if they miss, that might be another conversation, right? So there's options out there, I would imagine, but
Russ is gone after this season, I believe, for the Seahawks.
I don't think Russ is going to the Steelers, though.
That'll be,
I don't think Russ will go somewhere where he doesn't have a shot to win a Super Bowl, and he doesn't have a shot with the Steelers.
no? Okay.
No.
See, that's the thing is like I think with Harris,
That offensive line needs so much work.
that's it. You're not
Right.
wrong. And he's been dealing with a pretty
I-
beat as hell offensive line. So
Honestly, I'll throw this out here. Tom Brady doesn't have many years left. He might not have any years left if the Buccaneers continue to struggle. He might decide, if Tom Brady decides this is it, Russ, Bucks,
oh Christ. Oh.
I'll just throw it out there. We'll see what Tom does, but I'll just throw it out there because Tom this year has looked old. He has. He's looked. This is the first year
I mean,
where he's really looked old. Like he started to look old in New England,
yes.
but he's really looked old this year. Where again, if we're talking about top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, Tom might struggle to break that list, and I've never said that before.
I mean, he's 27 touchdowns on 7 picks this season.
They're deceiving stats. They're deceiving stats. And I think if you
I,
look at some of these recent games where he's underthrowing guys by like 10 yards, and you see guys starting to get a little bit frustrated on the receiving core with the fact that they're getting underthrown a little bit, and you go, ugh. He's starting to underthrow guys big time.
yeah,
Um,
I think it's been proven. You start to doubt Tom Brady,
oh, I'm
and
not
uh,
gonna do that yet. I'm
and
not gonna
and
do that
it
yet.
bites you in the ass. I'm not about to do that yet. I mean, you're talking about the guy that's averaging, I believe, the most yards per game in the league, 27-7 touchdown to INT ratio. I
They've
think
literally had
second
to
most
surround
first.
him with an all-star team to do that.
Sure. I mean, obviously he has a lot of weapons. I mean, you don't get a lot of those TDs on some of those toss ups, right? Because
Yeah.
he'll throw it up to a receiver for sure. He'll put it in the place though for them to be able to do it. I'm not ready quite yet to say that he's washed at this point, right? But it'll be interesting. I mean, this is a team that's they have to lean on him a little bit more. This defense is not quite as good, so they need that offensive production has got to stay up there. So this will be kind of telling. They haven't looked good lately, so they'll have to pick it up. I think this is still you're talking about still your NFC South division winner for sure
Probably.
because that division's a little bit of a mess for number two. Everybody kind of scrambling and trying to get there,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see. It's not looking like a team that getting the Super Bowl like they were last year. But remember last season, they didn't look great at parts last season as well.
Well,
This team did look a little shot early on,
yeah,
and
the
they
thing last
really
year was the
rallied back.
start,
So
right?
we'll
The thing
see.
last year was the
We're getting to
start.
that second half, right? We're
Yeah.
almost getting right to the meat of the second half here. This will be telling, obviously, if this is going to be a team that goes in the playoffs or doesn't. Because they're probably, you would imagine, making the playoffs, right?
You would think.
Even though they drop a game to Washington right there, still got to imagine they're making that. But
Couple more games to touch on from last week before we move on to this week. The Chiefs actually finally looking like the Chiefs. Holy shit, they can play football well. It's amazing. Yeah, I had that one wrong.
yeah,
I didn't believe in the Chiefs.
got that one. Well, and like I said, I think that it was the worst time. It was the worst time for the Raiders to play the Chiefs, and I think that kind of just showed that it was just they really didn't get it going early, and it just melted away as that game continued on. They didn't look good really at any point. So yeah,
I got nothing else to say about that game, honestly. Chiefs
more or less
like the Chiefs. The Raiders look like the shit.
And I suppose the only other game, I mean, I suppose, Minnesota proving a little bit more than I expected against that Chargers team. A Chargers team that's been definitely very wishy-washy, underperforming definitely to what people were looking for out of this team going into the season. And with a beat-up Chiefs team, you would expect and you would hope that they would be the ones to like cream rise to the top sort of thing, but they have not shown that. And Minnesota, not too shabby actually, and a team I've typically been down on, but this is regular season's Kirk Cousins time. He's looking all right out there. We'll see if this team's able to continue late into the season and going into the playoffs. But you got to imagine Minnesota's looking pretty good for that going forward.
Want to talk about the Packers shutting out the Seahawks on your upset pick of the week?
Yes, that was a miss. So you got to say that this is this Green Bay defense is
unreal. Best one Aaron Rodgers has ever had. I'll throw that down right now. Rodgers has never had a defense this good.
So there was maybe some whispers or whatever about how this team's drafted and assembled this team around Rodgers and they're not getting enough weapons. You give them a defense like that, you better win some goddamn football games on the other side of it. They fucking stomped out that Russell Wilson return. Maybe coming back a little too early, right, Russ? Like,
Perhaps.
Maybe Geno Smith gives you some points, actually, on that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Gino literally could not have done worse.
See that stat line. I haven't actually taken a look at the stat line.
20 for 40, one something and a pick and two picks. It was bad.
I get Russ ran it decent.
Um,
That's about it. Yeah, that's a.
I will say about the Packers not drafting enough offensive weapons. I'm still on that train. I still think as good as this team is, come the playoffs, they do not have the offensive weapons they need to get through it. They don't in the playoffs. I get that defense wins championships, and that's still relatively true. But there's gonna be a point where you need to put together a drive, and you need to get that one big play that changes the game, and I don't think the Packers have the weapons to do that.
Do you think that Tunyon would be enough?
No.
No. See,
No, not on his own.
Because I've been kind of, I still am, not a great game that last game. Although AJ Dillon did pick up a couple tutties there,
And then he got hurt.
yes. So, but Aaron Jones has been, good in that 1-2 tandem back there.
Yeah.
I mean, at times you've seen good things out of Valdez-Scantling. Randall Cobb obviously being kind of like an old favorite of Rodgers. And obviously Devontae. Most teams they're gonna look at that team. We shut down Devontae. We try to play press on that line as much as possible, and we make Rodgers do it in another way. And surprisingly enough, Rodgers almost 300 yards in that game, but did have the pick. You wonder, if that offense can go like you thought it could go before, just with him. I mean, obviously, you're still talking about a team right now that is 8-2.
8-2.
So
Best team in the NFL.
Pretty much. You kind of trying to pick at the small things there, and with
absolutely
the defense going like that, man, it's tough not to still be pretty high up on this team right now. But yeah, offensively, they've been a little underwhelming for sure. So
yeah.
And they didn't have a stellar Seattle defense that they were playing against, and they put up only that 17 points, a shutout regardless. But you would even thought even better than that, right, against that team. So
yeah. Well, I think we're good for last week. We didn't mention the Eagles and Broncos game, but that's because the Eagles won. But we mentioned it talking about the game. They're both teams who are average to below average. I just had the teams backwards. Apparently, the Eagles are average and the Broncos are below average.
Yeah, I mean, Bridgewater. That was a really disappointing game out there for him. Numbers wise, don't necessarily look that bad, but I don't know if you saw that on the. I think it was a fumble return. Bridgewater, right in the middle of the field, has the ability to make a play there to keep that game. And it's a close game. It's a close game. This is I think this was third quarter or something like that. Like, this game was still very much in play. And he just let him go by for a fumble 6. And, oof. That's there's a certain factor to where you see him do that and you wonder if this team's gonna win another game throughout the rest of the season. It's super deflating seeing something like that, and he owned up to it after the fact. But I just don't know where this team goes, and they got Locke sitting on the bench who they don't even want him there. I'm surprised he's even still on the team because they don't want to even put Drew Lock out there. So. We'll see how this Broncos team goes. It's been kind of rough because at times they were looking all right, but what a terrible game against the Eagles team. That just again Why the hell are they running the ball so much now? This is ridiculous. I'm so annoyed with this Eagles team.
Don't worry, Miles Sanders is back this week. They'll stop now.
Yeah, exactly. He and the rest of the backfield will get 7 touches split between them. And Jalen Hurts will run like 10 times probably or some shit like that. And they'll still only put up 250 yards of offense.
Yep.
But we'll see. They have they got a good one, and we'll. I suppose we can start breaking into this next week's games. Hey, you know what? Let's just keep it going with that because this is kind of. I got this one circled as a very interesting game of very middling teams, but this could be a fun one to watch just because of the mess that it could be. So I'm going to go right to the middle. Usually we begin from the top down. We go with the morning game. I believe this is an afternoon game.
I actually think it's a morning game.
Oh, no. It's one that just lasts in the slate on the morning game. So we got the New Orleans Saints going into Philly to play the Eagles. Eagles getting, when I first wrote this down, they're at actually -1.5. This line changed before my eyes. It was just -2, and now it's -2.5 for Philly that I'm seeing now. Yeah. So Philly catching 2.5. I'll go with that. I'll go with whatever the latest number is here. I'll let you take the floor. How do you feel about this one going forward?
So this one to me is a fascinating game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the best rush offense in the NFL in the Philadelphia Eagles against the best rush defense in the NFL in the New Orleans Saints. That, you never see that, right? You got strength on strength. The Eagles, for some reason, over the last few weeks, have decided to run the ball a lot, and it's worked for them. And they are, by yardage, they are the best rush offense in the NFL. Nobody's ran for more yards than the Eagles. The other thing that's done is it's opened up Devontae Smith, who in his last couple of games, Devontae Smith, I haven't written much in terms of fantasy stats, but the best fantasy wide receiver in the NFL by points the last 2 weeks has been Devontae Smith. Right? The guy has been opened up by this run game. It forces everybody in, and then hurts to Devontae Smith. They have a connection. You know that. It works for them. All of that being said, New Orleans is 4-0 this year against the spread as an underdog, and 3-1 outright when they are an underdog. New Orleans also hasn't lost 3 games in a row as a team since 2016. I don't think that changes here. I'm going to take the Saints. I like, usually in a best offense versus best defense situation, I tend to like the defense a little bit more because if the defense can impose their will, offense is dead. If the offense can impose their will, the defense can still move some things around and make it work. Right? I think the Saints' run defense will win out against the Eagles' runoff.
Yeah, usually you guys think, defensive consistency is pretty key, and this is for everything the times they have struggled. The Saints defense has still been pretty decent across the board. Maybe not so much in maybe the sack department and against the pass as far as yardage, but keeping the points there, keeping them within games with the quarterback situation, the offensive situation they have. The only thing I'm thinking right now is you got a Philly team that they have to be feeling a little bit of momentum there. They haven't had a lot to feel good about in weeks prior, right? Right now they're sitting at 4-6.
Very much in the playoff race.
Yeah, very much in the playoff race. Off, obviously a nice win against a team that's right there in the middle, but they stomped them, right? Like a defense that I do like to start playing a little bit better than maybe their stats have suggested. They've been very middling, actually middle across the board as far as, you're talking about your points per game, yards against. getting all right there as far as opportunities to get interceptions, that sort of thing. But the run game, I don't know. I've heard kind of like if Sanders even does come back, because he's on the IR to return list, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even think it's guaranteed that Sanders comes back this week.
No, not 100%.
I think if he does, it's very limited. Very, very limited. I can't see them changing what they did last week. That being said, you're talking about my 2.5-point spread. At home, I like Philly just enough to take them. This was a 1.5 spread before, and I thought this was like maybe a 3-point win for Philly. So at 2.5, it's right there. But I'll take Philly in just being able to scrape by a New Orleans team that just doesn't have it offensively enough. I think they have a running game that just keeps them in there. And hopefully Jalen Hurts, they're able to get him out in space. He's been slinging the rock all right as of the last game or so. So I think they do just enough to take a game at home and put themselves, oddly enough, at 500 or close to 500. Sorry, which you would not have expected from this Eagles team not too long ago. But I think they run the rock. They keep the play action, get Hurts out there, and they do just enough against a New Orleans team, which I've been kind of down on this New Orleans team. They have been sputtering a lot lately, and I think they're the ones who dropped down to 500 at 5-5 after this loss.
Tight game. Could go either way.
Very. And we'll jump in. This one's a deceiving one. I'm surprised a little bit about the line. I guess I kind of understand it by the way one team has been typically stat-wise, their offense when they're going look pretty good. But we'll go right to the top of the list. We got Indianapolis Colts going into Buffalo to play the Bills. Bills, at the time I was looking, and we'll take a quick look, I had them at -7. And it looks like they're still -7 at home there going in. This one took me a while. I was very back and forth, kind of fighting myself on this pick. I'm interested where you're going with this one, actually.
Okay, so the stats that I have for this one that led me to where I'm going. The Bills have the third best run defense in the NFL. They've only allowed 755 yards on the ground so far this year. And have only allowed 3 runs of 20-plus yards this year. So they have the parts to contain Jonathan Taylor. On top of that, the Bills have the second most interceptions in the NFL this year with 15, while only allowing 6 passing touchdowns. That Bills defense has been next level good. They've scored the second most points in the NFL while allowing the least. Right? Like that. Yeah. The Bills are the most complete team there is out there. The Colts have not beaten a team this year above 500. They struggle against good teams. They beat bad teams. That's their thing. I will say, however, the Colts have covered the spread in their last 3 games as road dogs. They covered against the Rams and Ravens and beat the 49ers outright. So I will take the Bills outright. Ooh. 7 points is a little bit much for me, though. I'll take the Colts to cover.
Okay. And we do count those. These are against the spreads. But I completely agree. I think Buffalo does take this one just slightly. I think 7's a little much, though. So I take Indy to stay within that 7 points. Interesting fact, because I like a lot of the things you brought up. Definitely, like, you got, like, a team that's good on both sides of the ball, like the Bills are, and they've kind of shown that. So I definitely like them overall as a team. I think 6-3. Obviously, that Jacksonville loss is going to hang over their heads for quite the entire season, basically. Yeah. Like, they lost against the Jags. It kind of makes you panic a little bit. Obviously, that game against the Jets, they just put a lot of that stuff to rest, right? But here's an interesting thing about these two teams. Take a look at their very recent spread of games, especially within these last 4. So they've alternated. Colts just played Jacksonville, the Jets. Bills just played the Jets and the Jags. So they just flipped the two teams right there. Obviously, Bills losing that game against the Jags. Both of them actually in the back-to-back games. The Colts playing the Jets on the 4th, beat them 45-30. The Bills playing the Jets on the 14th, beat them 45-17. Both putting up 45 points against the Jets. Just a fun little fact there. And then if you take a look back, both these teams back-to-back weeks losing 3 weeks ago for the Colts, 4 weeks ago for the Bills, losing to the Tennessee Titans 34-31. Exact score. Not exactly a scoregami, like a score duplication of a weird sort.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of feel like this, just from those weird numbers, and you could look at the individual stats, and I really like how you kind of lined it up as far as the rushing game and offense, defense, that sort of thing. I think that's going to dictate a lot of this game. But yeah, just from like those results and how they've played those games recently, that's why I feel like this is going to be way closer than a 7-point game. This is a field goal. This is a 4-point game at most, I feel, between the two. So that's why I'll go with I'll join you with the Colts there. I think the Colts can win this game. I think they could also just lose this game just barely.
I don't
be a little bit of a heartbreaker for them, but
winning. I really don't. I think they'll keep it close, but like Jonathan Taylor would have to do something to this Bills defense that just nobody's done this year, right?
Yeah.
Like Derrick Henry's the only one to go over 100 yards against them, and even then, it was on like 30 rushing attempts, right? Like he didn't break away big gains. He chipped slowly.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I think for the Colts to win this, they need a couple of really massively big runs from Jonathan Taylor. I just don't see it happening.
I see them being able to maybe, I don't know if Taylor goes over 100. I think maybe effective spot kind of running that he'll have. He'll have maybe a good average, but maybe not. They're running the ball like that. I can see this team doing a lot of screens, a lot of quick passes maybe for Wentz, and like trying to open up that field a little bit and maybe have some opportune runs for Taylor there. And then who knows? I mean, as far as the Wentz is such a crazy factor in these games. Like he could sling the rock still, but I think it'll be a little bit more measured of a game for him here. I think they will kind of utilize the screen. Try to get Taylor in space as much as you can, basically, because the Bills are going to probably demolish that front. So can you get him outside, and can you take advantage? I would say of. You might bite them on aggression. They might be looking to stop the run so much that you're able to get them on something like that to where you're able to get outside. I think that's what they need. Kind of similar to what you're thinking about a huge run play. I'm thinking like the huge screen pass is going to be something that they're going to be looking for.
The thing that almost scared me into picking the Bills here is that 15-6 touchdowns to interceptions, right?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, he's gonna be Carson Wentz, and what scares me is he'll be a couple of times where he's got a one-on-one and just throw it up against Tre'Davious White or something like that, and it's going back the other way, and then before you know it, the game gets ugly. But
perhaps, absolutely, I think there's absolutely as much of a chance as that as there is of him actually being able to be pretty efficient. 250 yards with a tutty. He could have that kind of game too. I'm done trying to predict that fool. It is annoying as shit trying to predict how Carson Wentz is going to play week in from week out, because he can actually, like, he had a pretty low. He kept it to one interception for quite a while there to begin the season, right? Like, so stat wise, wasn't popping off the board there, but then he has the fumbles, and then he starts throwing ridiculous left-handed interceptions and the end zone and crap like that. It's like, what the hell is this? So I'm done trying to predict exactly how he's going to play, but I think the offensive play calling will hopefully I think that's a hungry, opportunistic kind of defense that the Bills have, and what kind of bites those teams is stuff like the screen pass, maybe a little misdirection, that sort of thing. Try to get them biting in some way or another and try to pop it the other way. Make them think twice about their pursuit, and that can start to open up your offense a little bit for them. So that'll be to be seen. This one was definitely a hard one for me to pick. because I feel like this Buffalo team could obviously go at any time. So this could be one to where their offense looks real good, and they take out that spread. But I think it's much more likely to be a close game than a blowout. Yeah, we'll keep it moving right along here. We'll go into the next game on the slate, and I don't know. This one's kind of funny when we're looking at it, because I think on the surface, if you didn't really think about how it went last week, this would be an easy pick. And this line has moved incredibly far from when I last looked at it. When I first was writing this down a couple hours ago, this was a +4.5, but now it's a +6. We got Baltimore heading into Chicago to play the Bears. And now this is at a +6 for the Bears. I know one reason why.
Exactly why. It's
I know exactly why.
The name is Khalil Mack.
Yes. Mack has been out, so I'm a little interested that it was like that big of a change, because how much was he even going to be playing anyways? He's been out for the last bit, right? So I don't think there was really expectation that he would be coming back and being anything this week anyways. But yeah, now that line moves a 1.5 there. A Baltimore team that, what the hell? Like they are a tough one at 6-3. That is the most un-6-3 6-3 team I've ever seen. This line makes me think about it a little bit more. I'll see where you're going with it, because 4.5, I'll tell you right now, at 4.5, I had Baltimore. At 6, even with Mack out, I wasn't expecting Mack to play anyways. So I'll have to give this a think, actually.
Okay. Well, then I will start. I will give you the cold numbers, right? The no emotion in it, the numbers I got here.
Cold hard facts.
The Bears are distinctly average at rush yards allowed. 16th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed, right through the middle. Though they are 8th in the league in sacks, which leads you to believe that front four causes issues.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson's never lost a game to an NFC team. He's 12-0 against the NFC.
Huh.
Hollywood Brown... Yes, that is an interesting one. Hollywood Brown has more 100-yard receiving games this year than the rest of his career combined. He's got 3 this year, 2 throughout the rest of the year. And the Bears give up the 6th most yards per passing attempt in the NFL. The Ravens gained the 8th most per attempt. So that's an interesting fantasy owner. If you're a Hollywood Brown owner, you're probably loving this week. Bears give up big plays through the air. Ravens gain big plays through the air. Though the Bears have not really played a quarterback who's wanted to scramble against them this year, the Ravens shockingly gave up 40 yards to Derek Carr on the ground. Derek Carr ran for 40 against them. So Justin Fields' mobility could potentially be a factor in this game. That being said, a Bears run defense has had 4 people run for 100 yards against them, and 3 of those are in the past 4 weeks. The Bears defense has been all over the place this year, shambolic recently. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens here. I think even at the 6-point spread, I think there's a real chance that this game gets ugly. It's certainly more than a touchdown, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things to where because I don't think this Bears offense goes at all. They don't really have it in either side. They can't run the rock traditionally. They could get Fields out in some plays perhaps, and that might be something that they could look toward against this Ravens defense. I don't have a lot of confidence, obviously, in this Ravens offense, given just how lackluster they just came off a game. But you got to feel this is more of being worried about the Ravens honestly putting up a decent amount of points to make this spread happen. That's kind of why I'm a little bit more apprehensive. 6 points is really actually kind of pushing in my mind almost. I think they win this game kind of easily, but I think it's by a touchdown, 10 points maybe. So I'll still take Baltimore myself. I'll stick with that pick. But God, yeah, I wonder what this team starts looking like toward the end of the season, going into the playoffs. Like they really have not looked good in some of these games, and it's surprising because they just that Miami game, and it makes you feel so like, and they got this Miami and this Bengals game. Just they looked horrific, but then they played really well and beat that Minnesota Vikings team that started looking like pretty good. So it's so weird to call it, but the Bears, they've been dropping games left and right. They haven't really looked good. They almost took that Pittsburgh game, and as you went into in great detail last week of how much of a sham that loss was. That really probably could have been a Bears stub for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe you look at it a little bit differently through those lens if they actually get that dub right there. Coming off of a bye week, I believe as well are the Bears. So maybe a little bounce in their step, but yeah, I got the Ravens.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Before I looked into this matchup, I thought I had the Bears, and then the more I looked into it, the Bears defense just all the things that they're bad at are the things that the Ravens offense is good at,
Yeah.
right? And that's just always a bad combination for me. They haven't played a QB who wants to scramble at all this year. So I wonder how they're going to handle Lamar Jackson rolling around, getting out of the pocket, running on them. I the run defense hasn't looked good recently, and God forbid they have to defend a running back and a quarterback running. It just the matchup doesn't seem to fit here for the Bears. It just doesn't seem to work for me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. Even as off as this Ravens team has looked, the one thing they will have that home crowd going for them. Maybe a little bit there for the Bears, but yeah, still got the Ravens on this one. We'll move into the next one here. This your biggest spread of the week here, I believe, and I don't think actually this has been a slight adjustment. This was 12.5 earlier. This is now a -12. We got the Detroit Lions heading into Cleveland to play the Browns, a Browns team that has like they're right there with the Ravens almost. So it's another one of these AFC North teams where what the hell are they? I mean, pretty much all that AFC North, you have so little idea of where they're going to be week to week. But getting a 12-point spread here against the Lions after just losing a game 45-7.
Yeah, I don't know how the Browns are getting 12 points here. Before I get into the pick again, I got the numbers here. The Lions have allowed 600-yard rushers this year. That's an immediate scary point. Nick Chubb is back.
Yep.
They've allowed the fourth most rushing yards in total on the year. However, their pass defense has actually been pretty good. Only 5 interceptions, but they've only allowed 2 quarterbacks to throw for 300 yards on them. And they're 12th in the league in passing yards allowed in total through the year. So the pass defense has been pretty good. And Baker hasn't been pretty good.
No.
Another worrying sign is Myles Garrett leads the league at sacks with 13. The Lions defense has given up 27 sacks already this year, the 8th most, and 10 of those sacks are in the last 2 weeks. The Browns the Browns defense has only allowed 200-yard rushers this year. However, in 4 of their last 5 weeks, running backs have gone for 85 plus against them. So DeAndre Swift is another thing that could be a factor. But I think the most important number I have on this list that leads me to where I'm going. The Lions this year, despite their horrendous record, are 5-4 against the spread. And when getting at least 4 points, they're 5-1 on the season. Browns will win this outright, but I do think the Lions cover this. They don't get blown. They don't get blown out in games where they're supposed to be blown out. They get blown out in games where they're not supposed to be blown out. Supposed to be blown out here. I think they keep it close.
This is absolutely this spread's huge. and obviously you're gonna get a. It's supposed to be enticing. It's kind of interesting. You take a look at how the bets are distributed. Obviously, outright win, like it's so incredibly few going toward Detroit there. But then you get to that point spread, and you got folks starting to take Detroit a lot more because that many points being given up is going to. I mean, that's interesting for offense that has really just not shown it in some of these weeks. They're just the absolute garbage against Pittsburgh they had a few weeks ago. Then they come out and they just blow the doors off Cincy out of nowhere. And then they just lay an absolute egg against New England. It is the inconsistency, the up and down nature of this. If there's one thing you could say about Detroit, it's that they have they've stuck to it most of the time. I mean, they're blowout games. I mean, I think early in the season where it was, since he blowing them out by as much as they did, that was kind of more or less expected. But yeah, keep it close against Minnesota. Within a couple scores against the Rams.
2 points to the Ravens.
That whack-ass tie against the Steelers they just had.
5-1 when getting at least 4 points.
That's a pretty substantial record right there.
That's really good. They're in the top half of the league in against the spread this year. Like,
when your spreads are so large, then it'll add
right?
to it, right?
But we'll talk about another team who usually has large spreads and doesn't cover them much in a bit. But the Lions, they don't get blown out by teams that are supposed to blow them out. They get blown out by the Eagles. But
you gotta like the run game that that's what you have. If you're the Browns, that's what your offense has been this entire season. It's dictated by the run. We'll have our first. Well, you know what? Actually, no. We did split New Orleans, Philly. We'll have a split here. I'm gonna go with the Browns at a massive as that it is, and that's a great stat. The 5-1 against that massive of a spread. Detroit has shown nothing to make me think that they will keep this game. Like, they might keep it close at points, and like you said, they've against teams they shouldn't be. But this Browns team is just middling enough to where this is a game that you expect them to stay close. Therefore, they're going to get blown out.
That's fair.
Got to have that reverse thinking to it somehow. It's tough to say, but yeah.
I do have the Browns right, probably by about a touchdown. I would not be surprised to see another overtime game here and potentially the Lions' first win. The Browns' run defense recently has been horrendous, and the Lions rely on DeAndre Swift. And I think this could be another potentially big game for DeAndre Swift. And I think this would not surprise me if this game was a lot closer than 12 points and potentially swinging the other way. But I do think the Browns will win outright. That being said, 12 points? Nah, give me the Lions.
The way that their averages have worked out, Browns are right there, 23-20 points, 24 points as far as their points scored or given up in the game. The Lions, 16.7 points per game.
That is still not a 12-point differential. That is still not a 12-point differential.
No, versus what they've given up per game, which is 28.9, and that is.
Yes.
So you're talking about a very middling Browns line as far as those stats are concerned, but that huge discrepancy as far as the Lions are concerned.
We'll see.
Something's got to give. I think this is very much like you got to commend the bookies on this sort of thing because it's like that line is so ridiculous that you almost have like that's why Detroit's starting to get more money on the betting lines. Is like how are you gonna bet 12 points? But like it could easily happen to this team because they're fucking garbage. As we go forward.
Be honest with me, Tap. How much of that 5-1 against the spread of getting at least 4 points scare you from that?
A little bit. Like it's definitely a number to consider. But yeah, when you're getting those huge lines, like that's gonna be a little bit more of the case. And yeah, Detroit, they have had surprisingly close games. Absolutely.
Scrappy.
But yeah, I think Jared Goff has only regressed as the season's gone. Like it was like kind of hanging in there all right early on. Yeah, like you said, DeAndre Swift is the only thing that this team has going for it. And I think this is kind of a step-up game. You got a guy like Myles Garrett who's been dominant as far as the sack game's concerned. He's got to know that he's going to have to turn it up against the run on this one. I can see it hard for them getting in the middle. So we'll see how DeAndre Swift's able to be. See if you get the edge. That'll be interesting. How much are they able to, kind of what we were talking about, I think, with the Indy Buffalo game. Are you able to get Swift out in space? I think they did that actually quite effectively when you're talking about like the blowout game that they had early on against the Niners. One thing they started doing, they started getting Swift out in space, started hitting the screen passes, short slants, letting them run. You get in your playmakers' hands, good things can happen. So we'll see if Swift's able to get that, but I don't have a lot of confidence in this offense being able to go, and I see Cleveland being able to do just enough. As they've shown, this offense can go in certain games. Incredibly inconsistent in doing so, but they can. So we'll see if they're able to turn it on against the worst team in the league. We move right along to what could be argued as the second worst team in the league. We got the Houston Texans going into Tennessee, play the Titans. Titans, again, getting this huge spread, -10 at home. I think this one, we'll take a look at the stat line as far as the bet spread is concerned. I have a feeling, it's pretty close. You get a decent amount more money on Houston because of that spread, but yeah, Tennessee looking pretty favorable there at the -10. I have Tennessee myself in this game.
You say Houston might be the second worst team in the league. I have Houston as the worst team in the league.
Worst?
I think if Houston played Detroit would kill them. Here's the stats that I have. Titans have the second worst pass defense in the NFL for yards allowed, despite having the 9th most interceptions. So they're ball hawks. They're not necessarily a great defense in terms of stopping you, but they find the ball. The Texans' defense is 13th in the NFL in passing yards allowed, so pretty average defense. Third worst run defense, though. You're playing the Titans.
Yeah.
5th best running offense. Houston has failed to cover in its last 4 road games. They are 1-6 against the spread this year. Their against the spread matches their record. By the way, Davis Mills sucks. The only reason I didn't say Jared Goff was the worst quarterback in the NFL is because Davis Mills is here. Yeah. Titans getting 10 points, not enough. Not enough. Give me Tennessee.
Yeah, give me Tennessee for sure. Obviously, I think that running number is going to be skewed. You're talking about Derrick Henry in the backfield, getting those numbers pulled up for the team, so that's going to be a factor there. But yeah, I kind of said before, and as we've joked about and kind of been the theme through our weeks doing this show, you feel about Ryan Tannehill like I feel about Kirk Cousins. This guy is super middling, but I think, goddamn, gotta be more than enough to get 10 points against this horrendous Texans team.
That's my thought.
What will be interesting on this one, I think the thing that stands out, as bad as that passing defense has been for the Titans, which is a great point that you bring up there, very opportunistic in the sack department. Davis Mills is going to get rattled back there, probably going to make some mistakes. It's the Titans' defensive backfield that is going to get their interceptions.
Most INTs.
I'm thinking, Mills, I think he's 7 to 8 touchdowns to interceptions. I see him going double-digit interceptions after this game on the season. Couple picks for sure against this Titans team. They're going to get after him. They're going to blitz him. They're probably even going to get there with 4. And yeah, I see multiple sacks. Give me 3-4 sacks and a couple picks for this defense. They're going to be feasting on this Texans team that has no run offense, no pass offense. And Tennessee easy at home to get more than 10 on this Texans team.
I don't know what the over-under is on Davis Mills interceptions, but as long as it's below 4, hit the over. I have him throwing 4.
You have him throwing 4 picks?
Yep. It's an opportunistic defense versus the worst quarterback in the NFL.
All right.
Give me 4.
we're going to go off, something we haven't dipped into here. I love that. We get Davis Mill 4 picks. I'm gifting you 20 subs. I'm telling you right now.
I'll take that. 4 picks for Davis Mills.
I'm writing it down right now.
I will not bet that.
Mills
4 picks
Mills
is,
4 on team. No, you don't have to bet an opposite. This is literally. I love that. I love that random guess. So, 20 gifties.
You know how pissed I'm gonna be if he throws like
3
early in the game,
and they pull his ass. Get the fuck out of there, Mills. You're not doing shit. No, put his ass back in. Put him in.
Put him back in. He'll be fine. Trust me.
Let him throw the rock. Come on, coach.
Davis Mills is bad. He's bad.
I mean, you're talking about a Tennessee defense as good as they've been decently opportunistic. They've had 9 on the year. This is gonna almost like 1.5 times their season production playing this.
When
Texas
have they
team.
Played Davis Mills up to this point?
They have not yet, and they're gonna play him twice, right?
Yeah, 8 picks between the 2 games.
Jesus. All right. Yeah. So both of us easy Tennessee on that one. Watch us both completely whiff on that call.
Oh man, if the Texans even keep this game close, I'll be livid. But no, they won't.
We shall see. We'll move it down the line. Start to get up toward the last of these morning games. We got Green Bay heading into Minnesota. Classic NFC North matchup. Minnesota getting +1 at home after a pretty nice little win. And looking good even in a couple of these losses against the Ravens and against the Cowboys before that. But still 4-5 team. This one's a tough one, I gotta say. With the line, people gotta be believing in Green Bay, but their offense hasn't looked exactly as on fire as they have previously. We talked about the injury that they had to AJ Dillon. How do you feel about this game going forward?
So, bold stats guy before I get into my picks. 8 of the 9 Vikings games this year have been decided by 7 points or less. They have every single game they've played this year has been close. Aaron Rodgers has made the Vikings his bitch over his career. 50 touchdowns, 7 picks in his career against the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, 9 touchdown to interception ratio is the best in the NFL. 18 touchdowns, 2 picks. He has been very good. He's doing what Kirk Cousins does in the regular season. The Vikings defense has only allowed 300 passing yards twice this year. However, it was against Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray, who are the only 2 really elite quarterbacks you can argue the Vikings have played this year. Right. The Packers defense averages 1 interception per game. The only quarterbacks they haven't picked off this year are Jameis Winston in that weird Week 1 game that they played, right, and Patrick Mahomes, and they've only allowed 1 100-yard rusher this year, and it was again that Saints game in Week 1 where the whole thing was just weird. The Vikings defense has allowed 400-yard rushers this year, so potentially a nice game here for AJ Dillon. Packers allow a lot of sacks, the Vikings don't. It's close. The like you can tell by just me reading the numbers, it's close. There's not a lot here. That being said, the Packers, I feel like, are just a better team right now. Not by 2 scores, not by anything crazy, but if I get 1 point, I'm taking the Packers.
Gotta say, the exact same feeling on my. If this spread was a little larger, I think if this spread was even like a +4, I might be going Minnesota on this one. But it's that
I'm
close.
so with you. If you gave me a field goal on the Vikings side, I'd consider it. But
the bookies, dude, they just know what they're doing, dude. Because this 1 point spread, it's a pick 'em basically at that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, you take a look at some of these stats for this Vikings team, and it's amazing they have a losing record. Again, like you said, though, they've kept a lot of games close. This is a 4-5, maybe not where you think they should be, but it is what it is. And unfortunately, they play in the same division as the Packers. I think the Packers still kind of show that they might be the class of the NFC right now, especially with how Arizona's been looking as of late. And the Rams, obviously, have looked as of late. I got to say, just slightly, give me the Packers on this one myself. I think as much as, I got to imagine Rodgers will probably have a little bit better game than he's shown. He's actually been very middling to below average as far as some of these games have been concerned, especially on the yardage is concerned. That Packers defense, we talked about them before. They are flying around. They're playing really goddamn well.
Really good.
You gotta like that team with their ability to get picks, that 1 pick per game average that they've been having. It's pretty nice. And their run game has been going enough to where they're able to keep that ball, do just enough on the offensive side. I don't see them losing this game to a Viking team that is pretty good, but they've been dropping a lot of these close games. I don't know if they win one against the best team in the NFC right now. So I got the Pack.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
This one, I love this one because we might be differing on this one. I don't know. We'll see. We got the Miami Dolphins. 3-7 Miami Dolphins going in to New York to play the Jets. Jets plus 3.5 going into this game off of, Mike White. What happened?
My man. Wanted to believe.
We all wanted to believe.
I think I even said it last week. I don't know if I actually believed in Mike White. I just wanted to believe in Mike
all
White.
Wanted to. I love the sound bites, the quotes that he was coming out with. He was feeling it. And the thing is, that's the fandom. That's the media presence. They're going to get fired up. One game is all it takes. One game's all it takes to get the love of that team and that media presence and all that whole bubble that is New York, and it takes one game to lose them. And it's just amazing how you have one really crappy game like Mike White had, and they're calling for Flacco. That's insane to me. And they're going with it. I mean, the quarterback shuffle, I guess, for the Jets, I don't like them at all at home here, especially against this Miami team that surprised the hell out of everybody. Did very well against that Ravens, up and down offense that they've had. Looking a little bit more like their defense of old, and we brought up the Kyle Van Noy, effect that's had on them, and how bad that defense has looked. They still definitely have some pieces there, though. So give me Miami for sure to do much better than that 3.5. I think they at least take this game by 10.
I will say, before I get into the stats guy, this is the least amount I've written for any game.
Who needs stats?
I think there's one number in here that forms why I pick who I pick. The Dolphins blitz 40% of the time.
Damn.
And I'm pretty sure my nephew can run faster than Joe Flacco, and he can't walk yet. Jets allow the 5th most rushing yards in the NFL and the 3rd most per attempt. I don't think that matters much because Miami can't run the ball. Miami's covered their last 6 games against the Jets. The first set's the only thing you need. Joe Flacco being blitzed 40% of the time. He's getting sacked a lot. Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah. I don't think there's too much to cover, really. I mean, you're throwing Flacco out there. You're hoping to get... I don't know what you're expecting out of Flacco out there that you wouldn't get out of just throwing White out there again. I don't really understand that call.
Especially in this game.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of mobility back there. And
I really don't get it.
You're not getting it out of Joe Flacco.
I really don't. Like, maybe a name that, once decent quarterback play, I guess, is what you're trying to go to the well for what was once a middling quarterback in Joe Flacco. That is, it's a very surprising move to me. I don't agree. I love Bob Saleh, but I don't know what the fuck he's doing there as a head coach right now. He is kind of in the weeds right now. I don't agree with this play at all. I think they'd have actually a much better chance of winning with White out there.
100% agree.
Terrible game, obviously, the last game. Did not look good. Something you've easily seen. He could play the other way as well. So,
it took me 2 seconds on the internet to find that Dolphins blitzing stat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't take me much to find it. How do you not, as the New York Jets, look at that stat and go, maybe the guy who runs like he's in quicksand isn't the best option here? Right? Like, and listen, I'm not saying that you can't make that work, right? There's obviously been a lot of pocket passers who have done great against the blitz. Joe Flacco's not that guy.
No.
Like, I don't know who they think Joe Flacco is. He's not. Whatever they think they're getting with Joe Flacco here, they're not getting it. If they think they're getting a quarterback who's better than Mike White, I'm not even sure you're getting that at this point in Joe Flacco's career, let alone a guy who can handle a blitz 40% of the time. I think Flacco's getting sacked a lot.
Yeah, I think definitely the Dolphins game to lose. I don't see Tua making some horrific mistakes back there. I see their offense going just enough to, they'll have a few decent scoring drives, and that's really all they'll probably need against this Jets team. I can't see them putting up. Maybe they scrape in double digits on points. Honestly,
I could easily see this game being a 20 to 30 point gap, legitimately, by the end of this game. I don't know what they're doing.
Honestly, the fact that they're. I'm surprised Miami didn't get a little bit more of a bump. Honestly, I mean, actually 3.5. I mean, that's a little bit more than maybe some people would have thought, but and it's still a 3-17. But Miami coming off that hot win, I gotta imagine a lot of people are feeling good about them against the Jets. Let's see. We covered the New Orleans-Philly game already, so we'll skip that one right there. Next up on the slate, I think this is your team right here. The Washington Emails going into Carolina, take on the Panthers. Panthers getting -3 at home. This one is, I like the line. -3, it makes this a little bit interesting. This is a Carolina team that their offense does not look good, but as we were kind of talking about earlier, this is a little bit different now. They've kind of gone through 3 different evolutions. This was a formerly Darnold, McCaffrey, then Darnold with whoever the hell they could put back there. Sorry, actually 4 levels there. Then you got I almost said Tucker again. Walker. I almost said Tucker again. You got the Walker McCaffrey, and that wasn't quite good. But now you got the Newton McCaffrey tandem back there. I really like this Carolina Panthers team to absolutely dog walk Washington at home. Give me Carolina. Easily over 3 on that.
I'll tell you right now, my pick at the end of this has a question mark behind it.
All
right. So, numbers first. Washington football team has not allowed a 100-yard rusher this year. They are the 5th best running defense in the NFL.
They are really good, yeah.
After giving up 95 yards randomly to Daniel Jones in week 2, the football team has not allowed a quarterback to run for more than 30 yards against them this year. Cam Newton, in his career as a Patriot, only threw for 200 yards 5 times in his 16 games last year. 200 yards, by the way, is a number that I will use to define below average, right? I think you're looking for your quarterback to get somewhere around 220 to 230.
250, yeah, something
competitive, like that. Right? So if you're under 200, if you're only throwing more than 200 5 times, that's a bit of a problem. Taylor Heineke is 3-7 in his career against the spread, and only 1-7 when not facing Tampa Bay. The Panthers have the 2nd best pass defense in the NFL, and have only allowed 3 quarterbacks to throw for more than 200 against them. However, this is the weirdest number you're going to hear all day, because Washington has played a lot of good teams. The 3 quarterbacks who have thrown for 200 plus against them are Zach Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and Daniel Jones. What? As you can hear by all those numbers, I have no idea what's happening here. The numbers seem to say both teams could win or lose. Carolina, they're the better team at home. I don't know. You said that line was 3.5, right?
Latest I looked at, it was -3. Let me check here. Yeah, Carolina -3.
Yeah, I'll still go for it. I don't know.
Carolina?
I guess they're at home. They'll probably win. If you're going to win, you're probably going to win by at least a field goal.
My feeling on this is it's going to be a running show for sure. Like, Carolina's probably just going to hand that ball off. I don't think you're too, I don't see Cam in, where I was talking about that play between the 20s. I don't see Cam doing a lot of running in those situations. I think the times they're going to have Cam running the ball is going to be goal line. It's going to be that first and goal. That's where you start to have the misdirection. That stuff starts to really work. I don't think they're going to really run him too much outside of that. I think they're going to stick to a more traditional offense. A lot of hand the ball off to your boy Hubbard back there.
And the CMC running factor.
Of course. And yeah, McCaffrey coming back. That's actually really cool. I think you brought up running wishbone, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Shotgun, 2 back, Hubbard, McCaffrey, Newton. That's
triple option.
That's pretty dope.
There's an easy triple option potential.
You got a lot of nice misdirection, crossing up, blocking.
You got 2 really good running backs back there, and I'm with you. I think there's a lot of sets where you could run both of them and have some really fun ideas out of that, right? Like I said, some quick triple options. Maybe a quick hitter to McCaffrey out of that with Hubbard blocking for him. Chuba Hubbard's a big dude. He can block, right? You got some. I mean, I only know this because I grew up in the city he grew up in. Chuba Hubbard played some high school quarterback, right? There's options here for them,
and I think definitely some good stats, that sort of thing. I'm a big believer in momentum. This is a Carolina team that just came off of absolutely fucking stomping the Arizona Cardinals.
Also, Washington football team that came off of stomping Tom Brady.
A good win against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
The stomping was that last drive.
Yeah.
Like a slow stomping, right? Didn't massacre. Exactly. Just whittled them down, and they were always like, okay, we'll get it. We'll stop them. No?
Yeah,
okay,
another conversion. We'll get Tom back on the field. We got this.
How much time we got? Okay, we'll be fine. We'll get stopped. Wait, how much? Where the fuck did the time go? And then all of a sudden that game was fucking over. That's how that drive went for them. That's how that game ended for the Bucs. All the credit to Washington for being able to do that to them. That's pretty impressive to be able to drain that kind of time. This is still, I think, a Carolina team that sees that they are there. They are in the playoff, not only in the playoff hunt, they have a spot right now. Came off a good win. You got to feel like they're going to hopefully continue that momentum to being that kind of team. And I think they take this win against Washington. And I know you're excited about this one. This is one I'll let you have the floor immediately because we all know where I'm going with this shit. So there's no mystery in this. We got my San Francisco 49ers going into Jacksonville to play the Urban Meyers. Jacksonville plus 6.5 at home. What you thinking?
I'm going to need you to stay with me on this one. Okay?
Sure.
Because this is going to sound bad, but stick with me here, okay? So the Jaguars' defense has only given up 22 points in the last 2 weeks. They have the 9th best run defense in the NFL and the 12th best pass defense. The 49ers' defense only has 4 interceptions this year, which is 3rd worst in the NFL. However, they do have the 4th best pass defense in terms of yards allowed. They don't give up a lot of yards. They don't hawk the ball. The Niners have only had 2 games this year where they failed to run for 100 yards, going back to that stat about the Jaguars having a good run defense. They lost both those games. They're 1-3 in games where they only run for less than 130 yards. The Niners have failed to cover the spread in 5 of their last 7 games, and they're 3-6 against the spread this year, which is the 4th worst cover percentage in the NFL. All that being said, I was inspired last week by Tap throwing down on the Niners despite no reason to do so against all the numbers and the odds in his face, so I'm joining him this week, slamming down the Niners, baby.
Wow.
Let's go. No reason whatsoever. They should lose this game by all intents and purposes, but they're going to win it, damn it.
I mean, I don't know how they would lose this game.
They shouldn't cover the spread.
There you go. I could understand that take to an extent. I would say, a little bit of a... Again, that, like I was saying before, that Buffalo-Jacksonville game is going to ring throughout the season. We all know that was an outlier completely. The fact that Buffalo only put up 6 against Jacksonville, you play that game again and tell me that Buffalo doesn't put up at least 20 against that goddamn team. I think they do. The interceptions, I'll give you that. The Niners have been despicable as far as the turnovers have been concerned. They've got a couple fumbles in there, so maybe not as bad as that looks with just the interceptions. Jimmy Ward, again, I think is a big factor into that. Obviously, having 2 picks himself in that game being huge. But I think going forward, just that team operating as a whole is going to be pretty big, having him back. And I think this Jacksonville team is just like, I don't see outside of that run defense. That run defense is actually pretty good. If they get to him early, I worry about Shanahan's play calling. Shanahan has gone away from the run, I think, a little too early in some of these games. And if Jacksonville is able to come out and really kind of put that down, this could be a lot closer a game than we'd like it to be. I still like the Niners, though. Absolutely. Get over a touchdown here on the Jags. I'm not super confident this is more anything than like 10 points, though. This is kind of the game. I mean, if you're picking the Niners, then you're picking them for a touchdown at least. That's, I guess, close within a possession.
A 1-score game?
But, I mean, are you really picking it for 7 points, or you feel like it's like 7+? There's a little bit of a difference there, right?
I honestly think the Niners win this by like 3, but I'm going on your throwing it down despite nothing else. I think they'll probably win this by like a touchdown or something like that. Like I said, this game seems to be the kind of game that the Niners might struggle with. They don't do well when they can't run the ball. And that Jaguars run defense is really good.
That Jaguars run defense has also faced teams that don't run the ball. I think that's another thing. Colts last week, yes, absolutely. We've already talked about Jonathan Taylor. Buffalo, they don't really. I mean, Josh Allen gets out there.
Averaging 23 rushes a game against them.
Josh Allen gets out there, but Singletary actually has had pretty goddamn low numbers, I believe, or whoever the back is for Buffalo. That's Singletary, right?
Yeah.
Back there for Buffalo. Seattle has been miserable on that end, and Miami's been miserable on that end. So, in their last, handful of games, they're really not...
Broncos and Cardinals couldn't run the ball well against them either. Both those teams run the ball pretty well.
I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch to say the Broncos run the ball well. I mean...
Pretty well. Broncos are, hold on. I got the stats right here.
I know Lindsay hasn't been doing much of anything, I felt like. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that, but it doesn't feel like he's been doing that great. And that's their lead back.
Broncos are 11th in the NFL in rushing yards.
That's pretty surprising. So, yeah, almost top 10, middle of the field. Okay. Yeah. All right. A little bit more respect to that than I suppose I was giving them. But, yeah. Niners, come on. This is a Niners team that, on paper, going into it, stomps this team out, absolutely. And they have underperformed like crazy. But it's still a team that I think has the ability to, they're starting to show it. Shanahan needs to remember what the fuck happened last week right here and remember that. Anytime he starts to
show it,
he starts to go fucking crazy with it and starts to forget about it, go away from the run game. Remember, that's your bread and butter, dude. Don't have to be flashy. Let Jimmy throw for 250. Tutty. Let him even run the ball a little bit every now and then and just hand the goddamn ball. Granted, although Elijah Mitchell, I will say, I believe Elijah, I don't think he will be out, but he is doubtful right now, I believe, on the injury board for the Niners.
Still doubtful, yes.
A little worrying there. I think he'll still play, but you might be seeing a little bit more of Jeff Wilson back there. And hopefully, we got Trey Sermon, who is just, I don't know what the hell is going on with him. I'm a little concerned about that, given how much...
He slept with someone's wife. That's the only...
Man, I would hope he would get some traction there, especially if you have someone like Elijah Mitchell not getting the reps. Hopefully, Trey Sermon's able to get some reps and alleviate a little bit of that. But, yeah. Niners, let's go. Touchdown plus win on the road there in Jacksonville. I believe it.
I'm gonna ride or die with you, Tap. I'm not confident in this one because every number I say says this game will stay within the spread. But I'm riding or dying with you.
All right. Let's see. Let me. So I'm gonna take a quick little sidebar here, because this one's interesting to me. Next game we'll be going into is Cincy versus Las Vegas. Cincy going into to Vegas -1. So Vegas getting 1 point at home there. This Cincinnati team is... It kind of I have no allegiance to Cincinnati whatsoever. And I don't really, Burrow and that sort of thing, individual pieces, whatever. This one this one hurts me a little bit as far as who I'm picking and just how this season's gone for them. I want the Bengals to do well. This is a team that looked like it was going to go. They were looking really goddamn good. I'm like, all right, let's go, Bengals. I had some hope for them. And goddamn, if they aren't some of the most, this is as, can the Bengals not do the Bengal thing and just be the Bengals this season? It's kind of hard to watch. For a team that I don't really have passion for in that regard, this has been hard to watch. I don't know, man. It's nice they're coming off a bye here. So, or are they? Or was it a no? Let's see. November 7th was their last game. So yeah, no, they're coming off a bye.
Oh, bye.
Back-to-back losses against the Jets, and then just get stomped by the Browns. Do you think the Bengals are a playoff team?
No.
Damn. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I want to see the Bengals do well because they've been such a shit team for like my whole life.
Yeah.
Right? And I wish I could say yes to that.
Yeah.
But I look at the AFC playoff picture right now, right? And all the teams that are in that kind of pack with them, and I don't think they're the second best. Because I'm putting the Patriots kind of ahead of that pack right now at 7-4, right? They'd have to really like let's assume they even go 0-4 in that stretch, right? It pulls them down to 9-8. That only pulls them to within this pack we're talking about of around 500 teams, right?
Yeah.
I still think they have enough in them to pull out a couple wins in there. So I'm looking at the Patriots as a 10-11 win team and kind of not in that dog fight for the playoff spots. So if we take the Patriots out of that, they could be in it, but for now, let's just put them off to the side.
Sure.
That playoff dogfight, you got the Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, Steelers, Bengals, Browns, Colts. I don't think they're the second best team in there. I really don't. I think they probably lose out a spot to whichever one of the Chiefs and Chargers doesn't win the AFC West. And then probably to one of the teams in their own division, whether it be the Browns or the Steelers. I don't know. I don't think they're a playoff team this year. And I think at the start of the season, if you told the Bengals they'd finish 8-9, 7-10, and be right in that playoff race the whole way, they'd take it. Given the start they had to the year, it's going to be a little bit disappointing. But no, I don't think the Bengals make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty pivotal game to that positioning.
Yeah.
Because who knows how they're going to line up head-to-head at the end. A Vegas and Bengals team that are right there, 5-4. They are potentially going to be battling out for that last spot. Myself, I am taking a look at the rest of the teams, it's hard to find a place to where they sneak in. Unless they take this game. That being said, I don't think they take this game on the road. I got the Raiders. The main reason I got the Raiders on this one, you were talking about a Bengals offensive line that is starting to show their gaps in protecting Joe Burrow, and you got a hungry Las Vegas defensive line that can get after the quarterback. Guys like Corey Littleton, that sort of thing. A good defensive team, especially against the pass. Maybe you start to get Joe Mixon in there, and this team starts to look a little bit better. They have not been mixing the mixing, nearly as much as they should have. But I think this Raiders defense is able to do a lot of bad to Joe Burrow back there, and this Raiders offense, second best passing offense as far as yards per game. Not nearly as good on the points scored per game. But you got the leg and Daniel Carlson back there. I think they're able to put just enough together. Probably have some long field goals in there. I think the Vegas takes it at home. Not by much. I think this spread's actually pretty good as far as the +1's concerned. I think Raiders take this by about field goal, maybe 6 points.
So I'd like to start off by saying my frustration with the Raiders in that I wrote on the first line of this, I don't know what the Raiders are because all their skill position players are idiots, apparently.
Well, yeah, I kind of hate that, like, in a way. Like, I don't think it's not like the front office is looking at players, like, on the draft board and being like, oh, yeah, this guy's going to get in fucking trouble. And picking that guy.
This guy who hasn't had a character issue in his entire career is going to DUI kill someone.
Like, and
No,
gun
I'm with you.
threats and the Josh Jacobs shit that happened early. It's just so
Yeah,
much
I'm with you.
stuff that this team's had to go through, and I still like the momentum boost they got from the whole Gruden situation and going to
Yeah,
Bisaccia, and I think that's a guy that could kind of help this team go a little bit. But it's just like you get that momentum going and that team looking good after that, and then you just have all this shit happen to them.
yeah.
I wonder if they could be anything more than the last wild card team
I don't even think they
in
can
the
do that.
playoffs. I
I don't
think
even
if they
think
take the
they can
win
do
here,
that.
obviously they make a lot more
They'll
of a
be in
case
it,
for themselves.
but
Yeah.
they're in the same division as the Chargers and Chiefs, right?
Yes.
So I think that's going to be an issue to them. I will say the things I have here. Last time Max Crosby played the Bengals, he got 4 sacks on Ryan Finley. Uh, I don't think this Bengals offensive line is that much better since then. Yannick Ngakoue had 2 sacks in 3 of the previous 4 games before last week.
Yeah.
This team gets to the quarterback a lot, and they're going to be pissed that they didn't get a sack last week. That the way that defensive line plays, they're going to be pissed they did not get a sack last week. Bengals have allowed the 12th most passing yards in the NFL. They've had 4 guys go for over 300 against them this year. I don't love Derek Carr, but I do like Derek Carr. I think he's a good quarterback. And I think against the Bengals' pass defense that has been porous at times, he can do enough. Fun aside, since Allegiant Stadium opened, the over is 11-2. Lots of points scored there.
And with these two defenses, both these defenses have given up in their last games. Bengals were a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
41 points.
Yeah.
Each.
Yep.
Bengals gave that to the Browns. Raiders gave that to Kansas City. Now, I guess Kansas City may be a little bit more expected to be able to put up 41 points. So that's pretty disappointing for the Bengals there. I do think overall, though, yeah, you got a Raiders defense that I think will show out at home here. I think they'll do enough. That's interesting with the over stat right there. I actually think I think the over under for total points is 50.5 on this one. That's right about where I'd rate it. I'm almost thinking this is like a 27-24 game sort of deal. So you're right there at that line.
Yep.
So yeah.
Points get scored at Allegiant Stadium. It's a thing.
So yeah, give me the Raiders. Give me the over if you were gonna go with that.
Yeah, I didn't officially say it, by the way, but I am also taking the Raiders.
Yeah.
I think that defensive line is going to get to Burrow, and I think it could be I think the Bengal offensive line is better than it was last year. I still think it's flawed, and when you're facing guys like Max Crosby, like Yannick Ngakoue, this is going to be an issue.
Let's see, and we'll move it right down the line here to the next game. We're going into, that was our first afternoon game right here. We're going to the next one. This one is before last week. I think this was a pretty easy one. After the last week, maybe a little bit more interesting based on how one team's starting to maybe start coming around here. We got the Dallas Cowboys going into Kansas City to face the Chiefs. Chiefs getting -2.5 at home. A little surprising, I would say, in some regard, because that Chiefs team has not looked good in a lot of regards, especially on that defensive side of the ball. But we know that offense can move when it needs to, or in certain situations, I guess. Maybe not when it needs to. My pick early on, and I think it's one that I'm fairly confident in, but I think that this Chiefs team's definitely on the rise. I still think though Dallas is a much better team, has the offense that can go, and they should be able to cover that 3 or 2.5 that's given to KC right there. So I got Dallas in this game.
So, this Chiefs defense in the last 3 games has only allowed an average of 12 points and haven't allowed the quarterback to go for more than 260 yards in that time. That's all the nice things I'm going to say about the Chiefs here. Cowboys are the 6th best passing offense in the league and the 7th best run defense. Patrick Mahomes has the 2nd most interceptions in the league this year.
Yep.
And potentially the most important stat here for me, Kansas City 0-5 at home this year against the spread. Dallas 4-0 on the road. Cowboys will win this. I just think they're better. I've said it before.
Yeah.
I just don't think the Chiefs are that good this year.
Yeah.
I don't think they're all that. I think the Cowboys are a legitimate threat in the NFC to maybe get out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. I don't think the same thing of the Chiefs.
I think this is just a slow burn sort of game that they'll lose for the Chiefs. I think it will be something to where it's like Cowboys get a touchdown, Chiefs get a touchdown. Cowboys get a field goal, Chiefs maybe sputter out. Touchdown. And they'll end up losing this game by probably like 6-9 points, I feel, as far as the Chiefs are concerned. They just won't have the ability to keep quite up. Their defense is so much of a detriment to them that Dallas is going to be able to do it. You're talking about the top offense in the league right now in the Dallas Cowboys going against one of the worst defenses in the league right here. You got to imagine Dallas is just going to get theirs, and the Chiefs will be able to keep up to an extent, but Dallas has enough defense to be able to get some stops there. So it's just going to be kind of whittled down. They'll eventually have enough of a gap to where I don't think this will be much of a game by the end of it. I think Dallas takes this pretty easily, honestly.
Yeah, I think those defensive numbers I gave you at the start, they're a mirage, right? They're the byproduct of playing Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, and then the withered corpse of the Las Vegas offense, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think those numbers are indicative of a change in the Chiefs. I think they're indicative of the opponents the Chiefs have been playing. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, they're about to bring reality back to that Chiefs defense, and it's that they're bad.
See, going forward, let me actually, if you don't mind, gonna take a quick run. I got something to grab right here. I'll be right back as we continue this. Give me your feel right here. We got our next game coming up. We got the Arizona Cardinals versus the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona going into Seattle. Seattle getting plus 2.5 at home here. Arizona obviously not been looking like the team they have been before. I'll be right back myself. We'll check in on that.
Okay, so I will start talking about this game while Tap is gone to cover for him. Right away, so Kyler Murray's a game time decision. DeAndre Hopkins has been confirmed out. So again, if they don't have Murray, they're not going to have Hopkins. That offense is going to be hampered. The Cardinals' pass defense is really good, and the Seahawks are bottom 10 in running offense. So they really can't exploit the Cardinals' biggest weakness, which is their running defense. Colt McCoy is exactly what we all thought Colt McCoy was. He's not a great quarterback. So if he's playing, the Cardinals are going to struggle. But Russell Wilson didn't come back and look good at all. And whether or not that was a product of a Packers defense that we've talked about being better than usual, or a product of Russell Wilson still being hurt, this is going to be an interesting game to find that out. I think, and I'll elaborate more on this when Tap comes back, I think I'm leaning Cardinals regardless of Kyler Murray's status. I'm not overly confident in that because, again, Colt McCoy is bad. Like, Colt McCoy is just a bad quarterback. But I don't like the Seahawks team at all. I like the Took.
Thank you. Heard you don't like the Seahawks at all. I have to completely agree on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that game against the Packers last week, I think there was maybe more of an expectation that should have been had for Russell Wilson coming back so early from the finger injury. But you got to imagine you're hoping for more than 0 points out of that squad.
Like I said, freaking Geno Smith literally couldn't have played worse.
No. And you're talking about a defense that's almost the worst in the league as far as the yards against, giving up more than 400 yards a game. Despite that still being a pretty good team as far as points against is concerned. But you're talking about Cardinals team that's one of the best as far as scoring points. They've had some down weeks within the last three, dropping the game to Green Bay, obviously, probably not as bad for the Cardinals. Probably expectation that, they're gonna beat the Niners there.
With Colt McCoy?
No. The expectation that they are going to at least compete, I guess, as far as how good that team was. Not necessarily beat. But the way in which they played throughout, that was a pretty nice win for the Cardinals. As much as I hate to admit it,
100%.
for the Niners. So yeah, maybe not necessarily one where you expect them to win by 14, but a complete enough team to where, oddly enough, losing your starting quarterback like that, and you're still able to maintain pretty well. And that Carolina game, I mean, I wonder how much it gets in your head when you have a Cam out there and they had to start maybe thinking about planning for him, but that's a damn surprising loss. I think kind of an anomaly of sorts. Definitely an outlier for this team.
I would argue that Panthers loss is more a product of a subpar quarterback playing an underrated defense than it is indicative of what the Cardinals actually are. Right? I don't think they lose that game if Kyler Murray plays it. I'll throw that out there. I don't think Kyler Murray loses them that game. I know the Panthers played great, and I'm not trying to take that away from them, but I just feel like with a guy like Kyler Murray, he'll find you a way to win that game.
Yeah.
Whereas Colt McCoy is Colt McCoy. Right? Love me some Colt 45, but let's face it, he is what he is. There's a reason he never was anything more than a backup in the league, and there's a reason he'll never be anything more than a backup in the league. Kyler Murray's still a game time decision. Nuke Hopkins is definitely out.
Okay.
So that is interesting. The stat I did bring up is that the Cardinals have the 8th best pass defense in the NFL, and the Seahawks are bottom 10 in running offense. Right? So the Seahawks don't really have the strengths to match up with the Cardinals' defensive weakness, which is their run defense. It's not great. It's okay, but it's not exceptional. Whereas the Cardinals' pass defense has actually been really good this year. Sneaky good. Very underrated, similar to what I was saying about the Panthers, right? That Cardinals' pass defense has been sneaky good this year. I don't know if the Seahawks can... I don't know how they match up against that to counter it, right?
Yeah. I mean, this defense is ill-equipped, I think, to handle a 75% Arizona offense, right? So I think Arizona gets this one on the road, I think, pretty easily. This one, I'm a little surprised by the line to an extent. I can understand there's a feeling about certain situations, and when you have a team that ties potentially the worst team in the league, but then you have a team that's really floating in the middle there, but you expect so much more out of. This one's actually very interesting to me. Pittsburgh going into LA to face the Chargers. Chargers -5.5 at home is the last I saw, and it looks like that's held true. I'm a little wary of this one because right now I believe I not sure what the COVID protocol is on Big Ben right now. As far as
they've been practicing with Mason Rudolph as if he would be starting this week.
Yeah.
So even the Steelers aren't sure what Big Ben's status is going forward. But the Steelers, at least in the back of their head, believe Mason Rudolph will be their starter this week.
Yeah. Um, with that and the belief that the Chargers are, it's got to come around. I don't know how they've quite had the fall off. I'm taking a look at like their injury report and that sort of thing. What's kind of changed for this team? The teams
Oh,
they
I can tell
played
you
lately.
exactly what happened on the fall off. It's very easy to see. I got the numbers right here. Justin Herbert has not completed more than 60% of his passes in 3 of the last 4 games. The Chargers defense since week 5 have allowed the second most points and the most rushing yards.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of quite a good amount of points, even in their wins. I mean, they had 5 weeks ago or so. They had a win against Cleveland, 42-47. So, barely getting that with a very high scoring game, giving up 34 to a Baltimore team that just gave up 10 or just got 10 against Miami. A pretty close game against New England and Philadelphia back to back. 1 loss, 1 win there. And then that Minnesota game in which they were battling, but Minnesota, I know they were holding it down kind of late, and that's a touchdown game, but I think that was like a 10-point game at one point, and Minnesota was able to hold them off pretty well. Pittsburgh, though, they are interesting because they came off 4 straight wins. Not great teams, necessarily. Denver, Seattle, Cleveland, Chicago. But getting wins. And then they just lay that absolute stinker with Mason Rudolph. That's kind of, we were talking earlier about the factor of Ben versus Mason Rudolph. I think that's it right there. Ben Roethlisberger gets those weird little middling games against a lot of those teams. But Mason Rudolph ties the Lions. I think that's a difference right there. I think Ben gets you those wins, even in the very meh games that they've had. But they can't close that with Mason Rudolph. That's why I like myself the Chargers in this game, even at the -5.5. I think the Chargers start to step up a little bit, start to show a little bit more of what they could be. Maybe not what their true colors are, but what they could be as far as a good team is concerned. And I really don't think very highly of the Steelers, even though they've gone 4-0-1 in their last 5.
I also do not think highly of the Steelers at all. I think they needed the referees to beat Chicago. They needed
Yes.
Geno Smith
Yeah.
to beat Seattle.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Wait, okay. Hold on. After last week, though, say you like switch the weeks up a little bit. Russell Wilson instead of Geno Smith, though, as far as being able to look at that, even with the busted ass finger.
Russell Wilson with one hand could have beaten Pittsburgh the way they played in that game.
Oh man, that's rough.
I know you think a little bit higher of Ben Roethlisberger than I do at this point. I don't think it matters if he plays in this game or not. I think the Chargers outright win this. That being said, I think the Chargers' issues right now are very real. I think this is a bit of a mirror match in two teams that think they're better than they are. So I will say Chargers outright. 5.5 is a bit much for me. I think the Steelers will end up covering this.
All right. I see it. Yeah, this one's not 5.5. That's right there. Like, this could easily be a 4 3-point game, and Pitt will be able to cover that even if they lose. I don't see necessarily Chargers being absolutely dominant in this regard either. So, maybe a touchdown game for them.
Yeah, no, I can see it.
I'll go the other way. It's very much you talking about a handful of points, kind of maybe between, I don't know, the ends of the range there as far as points. I feel Chargers though, like that's a surprising fall off. Pretty disappointing. Probably one of the more disappointing team. I mean, I feel for my Niners, of course, as being kind of one of those disappointing teams as well, as far as what was predicted maybe preseason for them and how the season's gone.
You would ask me to guess a record for the Chargers preseason, I'd have told you 12-5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Legitimately, I was that bullish on the Chargers. 12-5, 11-6. Like, that range. I thought they'd be the first seed, the first wild card seed, right? Oh. I thought they'd lose out to the Chiefs in that division and be the first wild card seed.
I actually had it flipped. I thought the Chargers would actually take that division and Chiefs would be wild card.
Okay, yeah. No, I was right there with it, right? Like, I had the Chiefs at, like, 12-5, 13.
And honestly, the Raiders right there with the Chiefs fighting out for that
I had
spot.
the Raiders a little bit further back. I think I had them just missing the playoffs, but like right in that mix. But I absolutely had the Chargers as the best wild card seed, and potentially, like I said, a game or so between them and the Chiefs. It would have gone either way.
Yeah.
Right. So almost more so than the Chiefs, I think the Chargers have been disappointing to me because even though, like, here's the thing, I look at the Chiefs right now, and even though they suck. And I still think they're just an average team. With that offense and the weapons they have, at any point in time, they could click and win 7.
It's like, I think the one thing, man, that defense is just so fucking garbage.
It's bad. But at any point that offense clicks and starts scoring 40 a game again, they win 5, 6, 7 in a row.
I just worry about that.
And now all of a sudden we're not talking about it anymore. I don't see that with the Chargers. I don't see that with the Chargers. And I actually like a lot of the pieces the Chargers have, but I don't see the point where it clicks and they go on a run like that. I can't see that happening with this team. I think what we have discovered is there are massive flaws on both sides of the Chargers ball that needs to be addressed. That Chargers defense has been bad. And I don't think people thought it was going to be bad, but it's been bad. And Justin Herbert looks lost out there at times, which he never did in his rookie year. In his rookie year, he looked like the guy. This year, he looks lost at times. And part of that is the fact that his offensive line is letting guys walk through them. Part of it is that Mike Williams has dropped more balls this year than he has in the last 2 years combined. Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt. That doesn't help.
I mean, this is a Chargers team that has like they've played pretty shabby against the run. This is the Steelers team that hasn't been really going to that as much as they should have probably. I actually really like Najee Harris. So it's kind of a shame.
That's why I think the Steelers cover literally is Najee Harris.
I feel you on that. I think that's actually a pretty good call. I'll go the other way on it. I'm very much I'm pretty. I think it's decent chance it's a touchdown win for the Chargers at the end here, but I could easily see this as a 3-point, or even with how the Chargers have been dropping stuff, Pittsburgh going in there and surprise them as well. And you'd almost put the stake in their season if the Chargers were to lose this game. Maybe not the complete stake in the season, but goddamn, they gotta
playoff race.
They gotta be feeling pretty fucking bad if they take this loss here.
Yeah, and especially if they lose that game and the Raiders win.
Yeah.
Right. Because here's the other thing: if they lose that game, the Steelers are now 6-3-1,
right,
and they might very well be close to joining the Patriots in that we're not a part of this group anymore.
Exactly. They would separate themselves as the second. First,
because right now the Steelers are in that kind of we're in this group list, and if they lose this game, they're absolutely in that list. But if they win it, they're kind of with the Patriots, and we're not really in this part of the race.
And honestly, with how Baltimore's been playing, they have every opportunity to potentially take that division. I mean, that whole AFC North is a absolute shit show with everybody above 500, but so many teams looking middling and not that great, and so. There's a lot to be seen still. That's an exciting second half of the season for the AFC North for sure.
No, I'm with you. I don't think it's quite stake in them, but it certainly makes their job way more difficult.
AFC West, it just makes it a little bit more difficult because I feel like, when you're talking about Chiefs, you talk about a Raiders team that was playing well, have shown that they could play well.
And could still play well, right? Let's be real.
Well, precisely.
The things that they have faced in these last couple weeks, with their coach being fired for all of the scandals, with their deep threat going to jail, their best DB threatening people with guns over the internet, right? Like, that's going to hurt any team, period.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to affect your team, not just in terms of losing 3 big pieces as far as a coach and then those 2 guys, right? And you mentioned the Josh Jacobs stuff earlier in the year. He's gotten that settled, but still an issue. That was still an issue there, right? There's going to be a lot of things there that's going to affect not just the players on the field, but the morale of the players who have to go out there now without their deep threat, without their best DB. And it's understandable, really. Like, I don't look at those Raiders losses and go, they're shit now. I look at those Raiders losses and go, yeah, look at what they're going through. True.
Like, I mean, you don't want to have completely dud games, but yeah, it's not that bad. And you're still looking at a 5-4 team right now. And I was actually going to bring up before we go on to the next one. I mean, you take a look at that division as a whole. We didn't bring them up at all, but that's a Broncos team that going into their bye week right now, they're at 500. As bad as that loss was, that last one, it's still, though, I mean, you're talking about as far as the divisions and the AFC are concerned, there's some slugfests in there in which you're going to have teams playing each other. It gets very interesting down the second half right here as far as, you know, who beats up on who, and what record really does get you into the wild card slot there, because you're probably not going to see that from the, you know, 3rd and 4th team in the South or the East. But you'll see that potentially with the 3rd team in the North or the West.
I think the Broncos will get one more win this year. 1. I think they're winning 6 games this year. They play the Detroit Lions later this year. I think they'll beat them. They will lose both their games to the Raiders. They'll lose both their games to the Chiefs. They'll lose their game with the Chargers.
There you go.
And they'll lose their game to the Bengals. That 5-5 is the fakest record in the NFL. They're not a 5-5 team. The Cowboys self-immolated. That's their only good win. I don't think of the Broncos in this race at all.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, they're as far as that division, definitely the 4th horse. Still, I mean, to pick up 5 wins, as they have, more than you would think at this point, right, for this Denver Broncos team. So kind of impressive in that regard, being able to be 500 going into their bye week right here. You wonder what they could build upon. Obviously, yeah, I talked about the Bridgewater stuff, like that sort of thing. Their quarterback situation is pretty muddled and going to be a mess probably for a bit. Some nice pieces. I like guys like you know what some of their running backs have shown.
And then they obviously have Jerry Jeudy, right? Who is a very good wide receiver. There's no two ways about that. What Jerry Jeudy's shown in his brief time in the NFL is that he is a very good wide receiver.
Right.
Beyond that, though, like I got no faith in Teddy Bridgewater.
No, not really.
I used to be a big Teddy Bridgewater defender. I used to be a guy who's like, listen, you can win in this league with Teddy Bridgewater as your quarterback, right? Is he going to be the best quarterback in the NFL? No, but you can win games with him as your quarterback. I'm not on that hill anymore. I think he's too afraid to go deep, right? Everything he throws is 4 to 5 yards, and okay, we'll just punt it, right? And he doesn't do anything to win you games, right? And though, yeah, he doesn't necessarily do things that lose you games per se.
Yeah.
When your quarterback's not doing you anything to win you games, you're not going to win much.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's true.
And then the other thing is in the AFC, I don't look at the AFC pack the similar as the NFC as the same as the NFC pack. I do think you're going to need at least 10 wins to make the playoffs out of the AFC.
10-7. I mean, that's not like a huge stretch.
Yeah,
that's pretty fair for that.
Legitimately, the way the NFC is going, 8-9 might be a playoff team.
Oh, I don't think we'll have a sub 500 team, but we could have close. I think 9-8.
Not
But
9-8 for sure. I think.
maybe a 9-8 team in there. We'll see.
I just
We'll see. I mean, it could mathematically. I don't think you're out of the realm from it being possible for sure. That's the
like the
way it's been
third
shaking
playoff
out right
team in
now.
the NFC right now is 5-5,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I I don't know. I think that AFC Pac's a little bit different in that there's a lot of good teams that have been victim to a weird year, right? There's been a lot of weird results this year, but I think that'll ultimately balance out, right? Like I said, I think the Patriots have kind of distanced themselves. I think if the Steelers win this week, they also kind of put a little bit of a gap between themselves and that chasing pack. And then, and you look at that chasing pack, you got the Chargers, you got the Raiders, you got the Chiefs are technically still in that kind of area, right? Um, you've still got the Browns there. You've still got the Colts there, right? There's some good teams in there that I think I don't think 9-8 is gonna do it for you in the AFC. I think you're gonna need 10.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been shown. I think the AFC is a slightly better class when you're talking about that like middle to upper pack than what the NFC has. So realistic. I think that's a pretty realistic number right there. 10 wins, 10-7 team. Being able to just sneak in. It'll just be one. There might even be multiple teams at 10-7, but it's going to come down to like some tiebreaker or
Yeah,
something like that. I
exactly
can
how
see
I
that.
have it.
I can see it.
I think the Patriots will probably end up winning 11 games. The
Hmm.
Steelers will probably end up winning 10 games, but have that weird tie on their record that puts them above that list. And then it'll be like maybe one or two 10-7 teams and a bunch of 9-8 teams behind them.
All right. I go with that. Let's see. Let's go into the final game of the weekend, or not even the weekend anymore at this point. This is going to be Monday Night Football
The
here.
Monday Nighter.
The New York Giants going into Tampa Bay to face the Bucks.
I'll let you know how little I think of this game. I have one line written for this.
What's your one
It
line?
says,
Let's hear it.
it says the Giants stink, but so do the Bucks. Maybe Giants are 9-5 against the spread as road dogs in the last 4 seasons. So I guess the Bucks outright, but the Giants cover.
I like the Giants cover right there. I think so got you for the Giants. Same here. Um, I think you're talking about a clearly better team in the Bucks, even as hampered as they are. I think when you're talking about enough holes in the secondary that the Tampa Bay Bucks have, um, I think that'll allow just enough drives to kind of sustain for the Giants. I don't think you'll have too many of those interceptions, the turnover mistakes that the Giants have had. I think that's been a real hole for them, whether it's been Daniel Jones throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball or whatever it's been for them. I think they'll be able to at least hang around, and that minus 11, just a little too much for me with this Bucks team that's been struggling. I think they will kind of show a little bit. I think they still win this game pretty easily, but I don't think it's necessarily like a complete stomp of this Giants team coming in. So yeah, I like them to win outright, but I like Giants to stay within 11 there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this Bucks team is, right? Like I think they're good, right? I
Yeah.
definitely think they're a playoff team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. So anywhere in that range, if they get a like it, let me put it this way. I think if they're the fourth best division winner, they're out in the first round. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think they beat whichever team of the Rams and Cardinals drops into the wild card, right? So I think if they're the fourth best division winner, they're out in the first round. I think anything beyond that, they make it to the second round, right? That's where I think they are, right? I think they could beat like the Vikings or the Niners or whoever might make it in as that second, third wild card. But if they're the fourth best division winner, they're not making it any further. That's where I think the Bucs are. You know, they just play in that division where everybody behind them kind of looks like they stink. So,
I mean, they got an interesting one coming up. I mean, this is going to be a game to where, yeah, they're going to be able to get potentially a game and get an easy win here. After this, though, it starts to, I think it gets actually pretty sketchy for them. You're talking about the Colts, who I think are better than that 5-5 show. I know you're not as high on them.
I think they're worse than that 5-5 shows.
I think this Colts team can play. They're going to be going on the road to Indianapolis as well. So Indy's going to get them at home. I would have said 2-3 weeks ago, this Falcons matchup looks a lot better. Maybe not now.
You're crazy.
Maybe not now. I mean, like, any given Sunday, right, sort of thing. I think the Falcons at one point were showing the 500 team right here. Like, this is a team that could actually win some games every now and then. And when you're talking about going on the road to anybody, I think that's a factor that you always have to play in. Like,
yeah, and we know Atlanta can get hot, man. That place can get wild if they feel like their team's in it, and if that game's close, perhaps. But
Buffalo, even though they're going to be at home, that's a tough fucking team to play. Obviously,
I got that as a loss. I don't think they're better than the Bills.
Yeah, I think that's pretty easy to call right now at this point. Anyways, we'll see where they end up once they get to the mid-December, as they are going to be right there when they face off.
Obviously, we're a few weeks away from that, but I look at that game as a loss.
New Orleans, as much as I've been down on the Saints and as much as an up and down and wishy-washy team, again, what is that team?
Done, right? Like, he's not coming back.
No, he's ACL. Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So
no, that'll be the Bucs.
Do they have what's his? I want to say Tatum. What?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom, thank you. Taysom Hill. I was thinking Jason Tatum.
Also a small forward in the NBA.
It would be interesting to see, like, if they were, I don't know, if they were to be something different by the time it was a month later. But yeah, I'm very not hyped on that New Orleans team. So as much as I figure that could be a game potentially a month down the line, I don't really have much hope for that. Carolina is one that you got 2 games against Carolina toward the end there. This Carolina team can go. Defense that's really good.
That defense is sneaky good.
McCaffrey coming back, and if he could stay friggin' healthy for once. And Cam
hasn't been a good quarterback in the NFL in 4 years.
But you gotta say, like, it's a nice little bump to that team.
I'd love to see Super Cam come back. I was a big Cam Newton fan when he was with the Panthers. That was awesome to watch. He hasn't been a good quarterback in the NFL in like 4 years. Why?
He can be I would say, he could be a quarterback that gives you enough opportunities as far as his playmaking ability, along with hopefully enough pieces around him as far as a defense that plays well and a running back that can be relied on to have some very interesting games against the Bucs. Am I saying the Bucs don't make it or anything like that? But I'm just saying
it's an interesting schedule.
They have a very interesting stretch going down toward the end. And if this is a Bucs team that plays like they have been playing, they will drop some games there that they would not have thought they would be dropping.
Yeah, no, let's be honest. This Bucs team hasn't shown us anything to make us believe they're out of this world.
Exactly.
They have been good at points, average at others. You look at some of those wins that they snuck out early in the season, and maybe it should have been more of a warning sign to us than anything else, like that Patriots game back before we knew how good the Patriots were, right? And back before the Patriots really got into a groove. I'd love to see the replay of that game, because I don't know if the Bucs get them right now. I think the Patriots have kind of started to get on this roll. Their defense has shored everything up. Right, they figured out how to run that defense. Mac Jones has gotten another 4 or 5 games under his belt since then and looks more poised, more confident back there. Like I said, they've started to run the ball a lot more. They've started to realize that they have a good running game now. I'd love to see that run back because I don't know if the Patriots get him again. They were getting pegged back by the Eagles for a while there. That Cowboys game is another one where I don't think it goes the same way if you play it again today. I think the Cowboys take the Bucs today.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think they got the benefit of some early season games against teams that they would not beat today.
Yeah.
Right? They got them at the right time. And so
that is a beat up secondary though. They've lost like 3 of 100%. Their 3 people, at least 3 of their backs that would usually play. And then they've lost one of the backups on top of that.
Yeah, 100%. So not trying to say that their injuries haven't played a factor in this. They 100% have.
Yeah.
But I'm not bullish on this Buccaneers team right now.
I feel you.
Like I said, I do think that a lot of those games, if you move them forward in the schedule, right? If you shuffle around some of these games, like let's say they got the Bills early in the season when the Bills were hot, rather than the Bills a bit later, right? They got the Falcons early in the season, right? But like if you take that Panthers game and move it early in the season, back when McCaffrey and Darnold looked like they were clicking, right? We could very realistically be talking about you shuffle the schedule around, and this could be like a 500 looking team right now.
Absolutely.
That could be looking at a schedule of death going forward. Instead, schedule broke their way a little bit. They got a couple games early that benefited them playing them early. The Dallas Cowboys, Dak had just missed a whole year, right? He still was trying to find his timing. I said about New England, I don't think even New England really knew what they were at that point, and they've figured it out now. That Eagles team, by the way, wasn't running the ball as much back then. Yeah. Be interested to see them against the Eagles team that runs the ball the way they do now, right? Like, schedule broke for them a little bit in ways that I don't think people are really talking about. And I think it'll be interesting to see going forward. Now that they do hit a part of their schedule that does get a little bit dicey. They do have a couple road games that don't look fun. Welcoming the Bills into Tampa Bay doesn't look fun for them. Yeah. Be interesting to see where they end up.
The one thing I will say, and this will be the last thing as far as hitting upon this team is concerned, is that it's troubling to me to have a team that they lost that, kind of, a tough game against New Orleans there. They take that loss bye week, and then they just drop it against Washington. Coming out of a bye week, that's very troubling for me. That's not good as far indicative of a team that, that's a Washington team that you should beat. I know you've had some injuries and that sort of thing, but that's a team you really got to beat, especially when you're talking about being in the position they are and having come off that loss. Like, that's why I'd picked them. I felt like, oh yeah, they're going to come out firing. Like, Tampa Bay isn't going to just take that loss and come out with this. And then they absolutely did. They come out and they were very middling, and then they just let Washington have the ball for the last 9 minutes of that game, and it was over before they even fucking knew it. So, worrying for me for them going forward. I think this is a very they got their Super Bowl last year. Yeah, no. Probably just wild card this year. I don't know if they go beyond that. Probably a playoff team though. Even with that schedule,
I'm not doubting
playoff team for sure. But
my issue
that's
is
about it.
That I'm with you. I look at that schedule and I don't think they're anything better than the 4th best division winner.
Yeah.
And if you're the 4th best division winner, you're playing whichever team
best
doesn't make it through in the NFC West, right?
Exactly.
You're playing either the Rams or the Cardinals.
Good luck.
Don't want either of those games if you're Tampa Bay. No. It doesn't matter it's being played in Tampa Bay.
Who would you rather have? Who would you rather have right there? Between
Tampa Bay?
Yes.
I'd rather have Arizona.
Wow. Really?
So I think Arizona could potentially be a better team. However, youth versus Tom Brady in the playoffs doesn't usually end well. Kyler Murray's never been there before. DeAndre Hopkins, though he's not young per se, hasn't had a lot of playoff experience with the Texans.
How much playoff experience has Matthew Stafford had?
No, But most of this Rams team is the core of a Rams team that made a Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying, but
yeah.
like the core of that Rams team as a whole made like Aaron Donald played in a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Like most of this team is that core of a team. So at least, and especially defensively, right? At least for the defense of the Rams, it's all a team that kind of made a Super Bowl. The Cardinals is relying a lot on the experience of J.J. Watt, right? And there's not really much else in terms of playoff experience there. So I think if you're looking at Tom Brady, which team do you want? I want the team that doesn't have that playoff experience.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, there is something to be said about that. Guys that have been there before. Yeah, I think sometimes that's a factor that's not rated in. You're going to have some first time really in that game players there.
Now let me say, I think they get stomped by both teams, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess the thing I was about to allude to is that you're talking about an already beat up Buccaneers team, and you've talked about this is a Cardinals team that's also been beat up on injuries as well. Again, what are these teams looking like as they get to that point? I'm very I asked the question to you, but I don't know. That's actually a really tough one when you really start thinking about it. Would you rather have the Rams or the Cards? I can see the argument definitely for the Cards. Now that I think about it a little bit more, I mean, kind of my thought is, what the fuck has Matt Stafford done in the playoffs?
No, and that's fair.
There's a lot of players on that team.
And Von Miller and
we'll see about Von Miller. Pump your brakes on Von Miller. I don't know about Von Miller nowadays. I don't know if he's as star-studded. Obviously, it's not going to be what it was in his heyday. But
I don't need him to be a star player or even a particularly great player. I need him to be a leader. I need him to be the guy who can get on to that defense if something happens and fire them up. Hey, let's go. I've been in this situation before. I've been there. You want this ring that I got on my finger? I'll show you how to work for it.
Did you see my boy George Kittle with that fucking pancake on him though? He got chipped by Juice. Juice got in there. He got his little piece there, but fucking Kittle, he loves that shit. He just ran his ass down. Let's go. Fucking take it out with Vaughn from the play. And that was for a 1 yard gain or a 0. But still, it's fun to watch.
I think I very much subscribe to the thought process of you need to have been there before to know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You need to have gotten there, failed, gotten back up, failed again, and then that's how you build to success. Right? I don't think there's many teams that you can look at over the course of history besides the New England Patriots, really, who haven't had that course of failure before success.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there are teams I can think of. I won't bring them up because they hurt too much. So we'll move right along. That was the last game right there. So we got our picks in. We're pretty even across the board. We do have 3 that we are separated on, though. We'll cover those right now. We got Detroit going to Cleveland, -12 for Cleveland. I have Cleveland actually getting more than 12 right there against Detroit. Craig still believing in them Lions to be able to at least keep this to a reasonably close game. Take them within the 12 there. We got New Orleans heading into Philly to take on the Eagles. Eagles getting 2.5 points at home. I got Philly actually taking that game with a nice little momentum they're riding. Craig taking New Orleans to at least cover that or outright win. Do you have
them outright.
You got them
outright.
I got
them outright. Yeah, I don't.
Fair enough too.
The really. 2.5 doesn't bother me one way or the other.
And Philly is that good of a team either. This is very much a toss game, I feel.
I think, like I said when we were describing it, I'm just going to take the defense here that's been better versus the offense.
There you go.
One of those things where you could go either way.
Precisely. And then very interesting one. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers going into LA to face the Chargers. Chargers getting -5.5 at home. I got the Chargers actually taking that game pretty decently at that spread. Craig has them covering within the 5.5. I think still having the Chargers outright.
I do have the Chargers outright.
But Pitt covering within that 5.5. So there you go. Everywhere else, we are even across the board. I think definitely some interesting spreads in there this week. Maybe not as crazy as the last couple weeks. We've had some multiple double-digit spreads in the last couple weeks. I think only 2 of them this week. So not as crazy, but a little bit tighter on that end. So very nice. It should be a, playoff picture is starting to form now. Obviously, we're getting toward that second half of the season. And I think you can't completely outright, write off some teams with losses here. But, yeah, teams like Tampa Bay, even like your Carolinas, it's just like this is going to be a very interesting game for them going forward. See how they come out of it. I think a little bit of writing on the wall, how these games turn out for some of these teams. Going into our kind of extra topics of the day. This one's kind of interesting because I came upon this in the stream. It was brought up. I thought that was a really cool question. Something I've thought about before in just to myself, and I think we might even discussed this one time before, but maybe it was off stream. Greatest football movie in history.
Ooh,
what do you
like
think?
It.
What do you think? I have a couple in mind, and I kind of went back and forth, but I think I have one pretty solid right now in my mind.
So this to me is a question of, are you asking me which one I think is the greatest or which one is my favorite? Because there is 2 different answers there.
So your favorite being obviously what you enjoy the most, greatest
the one
being...
that I enjoy the most, the one that I will go back to the most to watch.
And then
versus
greatest
the greatest being the one that I actually think is the better film. Like as an overall movie, which one I think is better.
Sure, let's hear both these.
So my greatest one of all time, I'll go with Any Given Sunday.
Okay.
Couple of options that could be up there, obviously, but I think, like, as far as, to me, when I think of sports movies, I want there to be, like, moments that really stand out in my head that make me think of, like, the best part of sports, right? I think we watch sports movies to see the best part of sports, which is why I'm not going to add a movie like Concussion, which is, though fantastic cinematically,
right?
It makes me feel sad about being a sports fan, so no. Any Given Sunday for me is the perfect blend of, like, has the moments that make me be like, fuck yeah, I love sports, while still being, like, very grounded in reality. Very great movie. Obviously, performances by Pacino and guys like that were outstanding. So for my best one, I'll go with Any Given Sunday. Now, my favorite one is objectively not the greatest movie. However, the sports movie...
If we align on this is going to be hilarious. Hold on.
Maybe the sports movie I've watched the most. Not just football. Sports movie I've watched the most. The Replacements with Keanu Reeves.
Okay. I like it.
I have watched the shit out of that movie. One of my favorites when I was growing up. Like, as a kid, I think it was maybe the first football movie I ever watched. Keanu Reeves in that movie is hilarious. It's fun, right? It's a good time. It's a little bit silly. It's not as good as Remember the Titans or Any Given Sunday, but as just like a fun release movie for me to watch where I don't really need to pay a lot of attention to it, but it'll still get me to laugh. I'll still have a good time watching it. I'm going to go with The Replacements as my favorite one.
Okay. Yeah, I think a great call, actually. When I'm thinking about this, I think my first thought was definitely Any Given Sunday. I have to agree with you on that as far as greatest. Like, that fires you up. You got Stephen Willie beaming, dude. Like, Jamie Foxx, like, that was the first time where I was like, oh, shit, this guy, this motherfucker acts.
I kept thinking Wesley
so
Snipes
fun.
is Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx fucking pulling out. Pacino just playing that just coach that's fucking lost, but, like, just play it to a T. My favorite, though, and this is super cheese, but it's like I think about, like, quotable moments and just just a movie that we had fun with, and maybe it's not the most PC movie anymore any days. I love Meet the Waterboy, dude. I love The Waterboy. Like that is just that's just a fun movie. It's just stupid, but it's just fun. Like it's not like the quality and like the I obviously like you get the message out of a movie like Remember the Titans or something like that, and that's great. And then like the wholesome stuff as far as like Little Giants or something like that, if you even think to them, like that's a fun movie. Like I love Little Giants growing up as a kid.
Giants is great.
Some people will point to like a historic movie like Rudy, but Rudy's kind of.
So interestingly, I'm wearing the Notre Dame jersey right
Yeah, you are actually, and I'm an alum. I'm an alum of the Notre Dame, so I should.
I don't love Rudy, and especially hearing the interviews about it.
Yeah, that's true.
About, like
that might have been
much bullshit is in that movie.
Yeah, the coach was totally for Rudy, but they made it seem like he was the
players hated him.
Yeah,
like Joe Montana was doing an interview about it once. He's like, no, nobody wanted. Like he was just a guy. We didn't care that much.
Yeah. So I gotta agree. One that's off the radar and people don't necessarily think of as a football movie, but one that sticks in my mind and is still a really good movie to watch. Jerry Maguire.
Oh, I love Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire is a pretty fucking cool movie. I understand. More of like a love drama than a football movie. But one that it has
the football thing,
it's wrapped around a whole football life sort of thing. So I will throw that in as an honorable-ish mention.
Great movie. I love Jerry Maguire. Didn't think about it because I didn't register football. Another one that's similar to that, although not a great movie. Not a great movie at all, but one I actually somewhat enjoyed the first time I watched it. Went back and watched it recently, didn't enjoy as much, was Draft Day.
Oh yeah, okay, Draft Day, yeah.
The first time I watched
Kevin
it,
Costner, right?
First time I watched it, I actually somewhat enjoyed it. And I do think there's good things in it. Chadwick Boseman's fantastic in that movie.
Oh. Damn.
And
Dennis Leary in there? Terry Crews? What?
Terry Crews is pretty good in that movie too.
Oh, I might have to watch Draft Day. I haven't watched Draft Day before.
Kevin Costner honestly does a great job at like being a GM, and you do kind of get the experience of like the GM experience in that day. It's a lot of NFL bullshit propaganda, right? And you do have to kind of wade through that, because it comes out right around the time of concussion. Right? And it's quite clearly the NFL's attempt to create a movie that is, look at how cool the NFL is. Look at the stories and the dreams and the magnificence that is the NFL.
Right.
And you can see what they're doing, right? So the second you realize that, it becomes less good. But I think the acting in it's really good. I think the premise it's fun, right? It leads to a fun movie. So no, it's not my favorite or the greatest, but another movie worth mentioning, I think, for some good acting alone.
Respectable. I mean, and the fun, there's a lot of fun football movies too that you wouldn't necessarily rate as like the highest of praise as far as filmmaking is concerned, but yeah, the Replacements, The Longest Yard.
Yeah,
Waterboy. I mean, even something like Invincible and stuff like that has that like cheesiness, like fun to it. So yeah, absolutely. I just thought that was a fun little one. Oh yeah.
I will say really quick, we did not mention Remember the Titans, and it's just because it did. Like we both agreed that Any Given Sunday is probably the best one. And when you're going for your favorite one, you're going for something a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more cheesy. Yeah. Remember the Titans is right up there, I think. When you're talking about great football movies.
Oh yeah, no, I did bring up Remember the Titans, but the only thing that dings me with Remember the Titans, I think it's almost the same thing that dings me with Rudy, is the historical inaccuracy to it. They want to paint too much of a good story, but that Titans team kicked the shit out of everybody they played. They made it seem like they had a close game and anywhere between them and getting a goddamn championship. No, they slaughtered those other teams. Once they integrated and they became that team destroyed. And so like, that's not a story though. Like you can't put that as a movie and be that exciting.
And that one, I'm more okay with the historical inaccuracy of it. I think because it's just a better movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's
right. Rudy to me just isn't that good, right? Like
It
Sean
has its part.
Ashton is fine in it, but he doesn't blow me away performance-wise, right?
No, it's all
Uh,
about the janitor for that movie for
yeah,
me. That's the best part.
um,
Best part when he's talking shit to Rudy.
yeah,
That
yeah.
like 5-10 minutes when he just
Oh, this is the
fucking
best part of the movie by far.
you fucking idiot. Like that's the best part. That's all you really need from that
Put
movie.
your bitching and just work.
Pretty much. Like, and that's the funny thing is like he
Yeah.
had been doing it to that point. It was just that cheesy like, oh, I'm gonna give up. And no, of course you have to not give up. You got to have that like story arc thing going.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Whereas with
Rudy's just
Remember the-
cheesy now for me.
Yeah. Whereas with Remember the Titans, it's actually a good movie, so I'm more willing to forgive it
Right.
kind of dinging historical stuff to be a better movie.
Let's see. One other topic, and this is kind of a random one, but it's something that I just kind of thought of as far as something I've been following, and could be kind of interesting as far as like in the sports realm, but a little bit pretty damn niche. One thing that I've been following them on YouTube for actually probably the last I don't know.
If you're about to
9
mention what I
months,
think you're about to mention,
year.
I'm gonna lose it.
Oh, this will be funny if we do. MLW.
Let's go! Major League Wiffle
Major
Ball,
League
baby.
Wiffle Ball, baby. Going into Game 5.
watched the shit out of some Major League
Maybe
Wiffle
that's why I
Ball
got.
this year.
I mean, YouTube fucking knows and has an algorithm. I caught on this channel like months ago. I don't know how
For me,
it
it was-
popped up in my stuff.
For me, it was the start of last baseball season when baseball was supposed to happen.
Right.
They had just started up their new year, right? And I needed something to kind of get that sports fix going, and it popped into my inbox. And surely enough, man, I got hooked.
Okay, that's hilarious. So we did not talk about this at all. I just randomly brought this shit up. Game 5, it actually just released today before we started our stream. I have not watched it yet, but Game 5 of the World Series, it all comes down to this. Wild cards, Diamondbacks, who you got?
So,
This is hilarious. I didn't think I'd be able to actually talk to you about this. I was just going to talk about like being excited about
I
Wiffle
have
Ball.
been.
That's hilarious.
I have kind of been on the Diamondbacks this year.
Jimmy Norp, baby.
Jimmy Norp has, like, his pitching this year has been ridiculous. Combined with the fact that he hits the ball well, but like
He's got the angles, dude. He's throwing
His-
side, up top, down below.
been, like, when Jimmy Norp's been on this year, he's been unhittable. So I'm with you. I haven't watched it yet. I have trouble believing in a Game 5 they're not going to throw Norp out there to pitch.
Of course.
I gotta think the Diamondbacks probably take that. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked the Wildcats made it, or the Wildcats made it rather. I didn't think the Wildcats were going to be the team in the World Series, but
They have been though. That's the thing. Like because I just started watching them recently, so I don't know like the history of the league. But I guess this Wildcats team has been in it.
oh yeah,
like
no,
every
for
season. And I think they have just enough. Like they are, they're pretty solid. And yeah, I don't know if Norp's the factor, right? If Norp's hitting dingers and he's pitching lights out like he has been or he can, you got to think D-backs. But Wildcats are going to be in there for sure. They've been close. I mean, I think it was Game 3 that the D-backs came back on. That was like a 4-0 comeback to make it 5-4.
Yeah.
So they've been close. So that'll be interesting going forward. That's hilarious that you've been watching Major League Wiffle.
Yeah, no, I fucking love it. But yeah, no, I actually thought this year the Metro Magic were going to be the team. I thought they were pretty good this year, but
the Metro Magic, because they got that motherfucker with the full beard.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name right now. I mean, he looks
Magic
like
fell short.
Yeah, I was very
I
hyped
do
about Magic. Yeah.
I do think Jimmy Norp pitching Game 5 probably gives the Diamondbacks an edge. I think he's probably the best pitcher in the league, and
He has the nastiest stuff, but if he's not hitting the spots, then it's going to be trouble, right?
It's interesting though, because did you see the thing they did on MLB Network?
Yes. They had that segment with like Pedro and shit, right?
Yeah, so even like legitimate major league pitchers we're fucking having trouble seeing Jimmy Nort's stuff, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think, like, when you have stuff like that, even if you're not hitting
wrong,
your spots, like, you know, if you got something that looks like it's going middle and then tails off and, like, is 3 feet out, it doesn't matter if you're not hitting your spots. Guys are going to swing at that shit.
It's kind of interesting because I think it's one of those things. Granted, it's obviously wiffle ball being, you know, right there with baseball, obviously, as far as like a lot of those factors, pitcher to batter, that sort of thing. But it is a bit of a different game, a different release, that sort of thing. And also, we talk about this fucking riser pitch, and all of a sudden, like. So I think it's one of those things to where I think you see those MLB guys, if they had an inning or two, they start feeling out that stuff, they probably start raking a little bit more on some of those pitches. But I do give you credit. Norp was dealing during that segment.
It was
unbelievable. That was fun to watch, for sure.
It is funny. I actually have seen things where MLB players try wiffle ball and blitz ball and stuff like that, and they struggle with it. Because when you're tuned into something for 20, 30 years of your life to see things a certain way, I don't think you can just change that in a couple at bats, right? So if I throw you a riser, right, where the ball literally rises because of the way that the air flows through the holes in the wiffle ball,
right,
you're not going to catch up on that in an at bat or 2 at bats. It's going to take you a while because you're not used to seeing that movement.
I would say
even the fastest fastball technically only moves straight.
I would say for any illusion. Like I'm trying to almost make the comparison because I mean, all in all, it's still like a batter to pitcher relationship, right?
Yes.
How many pitches from a pitcher does it take a batter to get a feel? And I'm not someone who's played baseball more beyond, you know, beer league ball basically. So it's like, what can I say? But once you start getting to maybe like a dozen plus pitches from a pitcher, it's not like it makes it easy, but you start to get a little bit more of a feel, right? I think initially a wiffle ball pitcher is going to have an advantage on a batter because you're just going to see some crazy angles.
Yeah.
You're going to see some crazy speeds, just stuff that's you're just not going to be used to timing it up. I think you get a little bit exposed to that to where it's like, okay, things could drop down from the fucking ceiling.
Yeah.
Right? Or they could come up from the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's an experience as a batter. Not that you necessarily start raking everything to the fucking homers and that sort of thing, but I think you start at least getting a feel for the timing, and you at least maybe make some fouls, some contact. You make it look a little bit better than fucking swing throughs, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I will say, for that catching up to pitches thing, and I'm not trying to take away from a major league player who is obviously the elite of the elite at hitting a ball with a stick.
Right.
5 to 10 pitches was about where I thought where you start to see what a pitcher's got. My problem with that is all major league pitchers throw roughly the same thing. You're going to see a fastball, some level of slider, curveball, changeup combination. Mm-hmm. Couple of weird guys will throw you a knuckleball. That's it. Right? With wiffle ball, you get literally none of those pitches except for maybe a slider. Right? The changeup in wiffle ball is not the MLB changeup you're used to. It's a Vulcan change. Right? Where it just drops. Right? You don't see that changeup with a baseball because you can't really throw it with a baseball because, again, the wiffle ball has holes. Right? Your MLB fastball goes straight. Physics say it's physically impossible for a ball without holes to go upward. It either goes straight and kind of tails down.
Yeah.
Unless the ball has holes.
Unless your trajectory is literally submarine.
From the floor.
Yeah.
And it can come up.
Right.
Right? I think that would legitimately cause somebody who hasn't seen that throughout their life and has gotten used to 3, 4, 5 pitches over 30 years. issues that would take them more than an at-bat or two to settle. I think by the end of, like, if they played, like, if an MLB guy went and played a full season in MLW, they'd be the MVP. Right? Because, again, they are the elite of hitting a ball with a stick. But I do think it is worth noting that it is a radically different game from the pitching standpoint. Right. So I do think that would make things a little bit more complicated. That being said, all this is an aside. Diamondbacks are winning this today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Throwing it down. Jimmy Norp's gonna keep this game low scoring, and I don't think the Wildcats can win a low scoring game with the Diamondbacks.
All right, so you got the D-backs. I'm gonna go Wildcats. I think they got it. I think the vets.
Yeah,
veteran presence for the Wildcats will take it. But yeah, that was it. That's really funny that we got that much into wiffle ball.
I heard you talking about YouTube, and I was like, "Fuck it, he's bringing up MLW, baby."
I did not think we get that deep into that, but there you go. That's what I got for this week. I don't know. Did you have any?
I do got a couple, and I'm glad that we went from wiffle ball here because the first thing I wanted to talk about was baseball, because they handed out all the awards and stuff.
Kepler, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, Gabe Kepler, Manager of the Year. I think that one
deserved.
That was very easy, right? I think that was very easy to see. And same thing in the AL, right? I think Bobby Cox, that was a pretty easy one to see. That I think whichever team won that AL East was going to deserve Manager of the Year because you probably had the 4 best teams in the AL in there. Right? Or at least 4 of the best teams. Obviously, the Astros get out of the AL and make it to the World Series. I'd argue that's more due to the fact that they had an easier schedule than the others, but that's not here or there. AL MVP Shohei Ohtani was the easiest ballot, I think, of all time. Right? He did something that nobody else has done. And probably we won't see anybody else do for a long, long time.
Right.
He was a above average pitcher who was also a great hitter, right? Who hit every day, right? And I think even saying above average pitcher is kind of underselling how good of a year he had as a pitcher. He had a good year on the mound.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Like
absolutely.
He had the kind of year on the mound where if he didn't hit, you'd be like, that guy's pretty good. Right?
I almost like, because you think about like the if you talk about wins as a baseball team, if you can manufacture that somehow to where you're not stressing them out too much throughout the season, you're able to have them still pitching out there and contributing as a hitter. You got to think about like overall wins. That's a guy that's going to get you a nice handful of wins probably with his contribution over absolutely, because that's what I feel like is going to happen. They're just going to cut him off from pitching, right? They're just going to have him batting.
You would imagine at some point they're going to have to, right? Like,
so,
we haven't seen anybody really do the pitch 140 innings, which I think he pitched this year, and mash 45 home runs, right? Like, you can't imagine he can keep doing that.
Do you think, like, there's any potential, I mean, emergency pitcher, I'm sure, is still in there. Like, I don't know. I mean, long relief, would you even consider anything like that for him going forward?
But not necessarily. But, like, I'd keep him stretched out as a pitcher, even if I'm not going to pitch him anymore. I'd keep him stretched out. I'd let him pitch a few bullpen sessions and stuff like that. For the simple reason of, if I'm in the playoffs,
right,
and I have the ability to throw Shohei Ohtani in out of my bullpen to really make a difference in a game, that could be a very interesting mechanic, right?
That's the Tim Lincecum and I want to say 2014 that the Giants pulled out. He wasn't starting anymore. He was maybe the 5th in that lineup.
Yeah,
and they got to the playoffs, and they're like, no, we still want Timmy in there, but he's going to pitch for long relief for us. And he was great.
Yeah, and I think you get into the playoffs and you can really use Shohei Ohtani in that kind of a role.
Yeah.
Right? Where, okay, we don't want him to pitch every day, obviously. We don't even want him to pitch a starter's role. But we need 2 really dominant innings, and we got a guy who can throw 100 sitting on our bench, right? Let's get him warmed up. Let's get him stretched out. Let's get him out there pitching. Now, the issue with that, and it is worth noting, because this is a very important issue, is you'd have to forego your DH to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You'd have to forfeit your DH in order to do that. So you wouldn't be able to do it until like a later game situation where you probably would be using bench players anyways so that you could substitute that pitcher spot every time.
Right.
But I do think there's a world where the Angels keep them stretched out throughout the year. Right? Not necessarily pitching every day, right? Maybe not even necessarily pitching at all in the regular season, but you keep them doing regular bullpens, you keep them stretched out, you keep them in that situation so that if you get into the playoffs, you get into a must-win situation, you have the nuclear option of throwing Shohei Ohtani as your pitcher.
I mean, I'm thinking you know you even have him in a situation to where he's playing like that DH or something like that, and that's his more or less everyday position. But you're gonna sit a guy every now and then, right? Give him some rest. Why not give that like a little bit of a stretch of time and give him a window to pitch, potentially?
Yeah, you could do that too. Absolutely, right. You could do that where you...
Especially in the dog days or like you're starting to get later on in the season, you're going to have pitchers dinged up. Like it's going to happen at some point. So like having that guy on ice to be able to like potentially step in, that's a nice little piece for him. So we'll see going forward. But
emergency pitcher Shohei Ohtani could be an interesting thing, right? Where it's like, okay, we got a couple guys injured. We don't really have the depth in the organization where we really feel comfortable bringing guys up. So Shohei, we're going to rest you today. We're not going to play you. Tomorrow, you're pitching. We're going to rest you the day after. Then we can get you back in the lineup. Yeah. Right? That could be an interesting situation for him. But I'm with you. I think at some point he's got to stop doing both. Right? I think it's 30 in a third innings this year is a lot to throw when you're batting 257 with 46 home runs.
Oh, no. They're going to cut his pitching for sure. I'd like to see him potentially still be able to pitch, though. Basically, is my thought on it.
Bryce Harper, NL MVP, again, very well deserved. He had a fantastic year for the Phillies. Yeah. That one was a little bit more interesting because he was actually not the guy I would have voted for. He had a very good season. However, I thought Juan Soto probably should have won the MVP. Wow. And the only reason he didn't is because the Nationals stunk. And there's part of me that gets that. However, I will say that in baseball, more so than maybe any other sport, one guy cannot affect your team. Right? In basketball, right, you can give that guy the ball every time you want. In hockey, the Oilers can put the puck on Connor McDavid's stick as often as he's on the ice, and he can make a difference, right? In baseball, you get 4 at bats, 5 if your offense is having a really good day, right? That's it, right? Shohei gets a little bit more leverage because he pitches also, but even then, Shohei only pitches every 5 days, right? Other than that, you get 4 at bats. So I hate the fact that the MVP is really become an award that if you're on a bad team, you can't win it. Right. Because the Nationals stunk, but I thought Juan Soto was by far the best player in the NL this year. And didn't get love for it. It's a shame. He did get a lot of votes. I think he ended up second in voting for the NL MVP. I do want to point out the AL Cy Young because I'm a Blue Jays fan and Robbie Ray won it, and I hate that because it means we're not going to be able to re-sign him. That Cy Young drove up his price another $5 million in another couple years, and that's us out of it. But congrats to Robbie. Congrats to all the award winners. I just wanted to throw out a couple of them there because I thought there were some interesting names on there.
You know, that was a lot of fun. We got our slate of games in there. We got some fun extras in there. We even covered wiffle ball. Who knew we were going to do that today? Very nice. Any closing remarks for week 4, episode 4 of
Sports Clichés. Week 11.
That's right.
Fun as usual, right? I always enjoy doing these. It's not often I get to just talk shit about sports with people, so it's nice.
Absolutely, yeah. Always fun. Always on a Friday, too. Make sure to check it out in the upcoming weeks as the NFL season starts to come down to its regular season close. We'll have reactions to the games, have our prognostication, see how well we do as far as calling these games. Hopefully we bounce back from the last couple weeks. It's been a little rough. But this is Jay with Craig on Sports Clichés. See you next Friday. Have a good one.
YouTube.com/Sports Clichés podcast.